Chapter 435. Lu Ming moved and appeared in front of the courtyard. The courtyard occupied a large area and the building was elegant. Lu Ming was very satisfied with it. On the door of the courtyard, there were a few words, East Sky Courtyard. Lu Ming moved his hand and a purple gold token appeared. It was the Divine Guard token that Lu Ming had. Then, Lu Ming injected his true qi into the token. The token shone with rays of light and the rays of light extended into the courtyard. Buzz! The monastery trembled and a curtain of light appeared. That curtain of light enveloped the entire monastery. At this moment, the light screen in front of the door split into two. Not bad. Not bad. Lu Ming was very satisfied. In this way, he would not have to worry about others spying on his cultivation or secrets in the future. Lu Ming walked in. Once Lu Ming entered, the light screen automatically closed. In the courtyard, there was a small bridge and flowing water. There were pavilions, terraces, and pagodas. There were also 2 rooms and a living room. The courtyard was filled with dense qi. Spiritual qi. This fog was actually formed by the spiritual qi of heaven and earth. The spiritual qi of heaven and earth had actually turned into a substance. It could be seen how dense the spiritual qi of heaven and earth was. Lu Ming carefully sensed that there was an endless amount of spiritual qi flowing out from the courtyard. The spiritual spring's eye is indeed wonderful. Let's cultivate. Immediately, Lu Ming sat down cross-legged and the 9 dragons' bloodline condensed. Roar! The 9 dragons' bloodline roared and opened its mouth. A terrifying devouring power erupted. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, between heaven and earth, the extremely rich spirit energy of heaven and earth gathered toward Lu Ming. The endless spiritual qi of heaven and earth was devoured by the 9 dragons' bloodline and turned into Lu Ming's true qi. The true qi condensed from the spiritual qi of heaven and earth was incomparably pure. It continuously converged with Lu Ming's true qi and condensed Lu Ming's true qi. Lu Ming felt that his true qi was constantly becoming purer and more condensed. It was slowly advancing and was infinitely close to the martial ancestor realm 9th realm. 6 hours later, Lu Ming opened his eyes. Awesome, this is awesome. The spiritual energy here is dozens of times stronger than outside, perhaps even 100 times stronger. Cultivating for a day here is equivalent to cultivating for 100 days outside. Lu Ming sighed to himself. After the cultivation just now, although Lu Ming did not break through to the 9th level of the martial ancestor realm, he was extremely close. Lu Ming estimated that as long as he cultivated here for half a month, he would be able to break through to the 9th level of the martial ancestor realm. This speed was already very fast. One had to know that Lu Ming had already cultivated the true dragon battle art to the 7th level. The density of his true qi was 8 times that of ordinary true qi. The amount of energy required was simply too much. If Lu Ming only relied on absorbing the spiritual qi of heaven and earth to cultivate, it would take at least a few years for Lu Ming to break through to the 9th level of the martial ancestor realm. The heaven and earth spiritual qi here could greatly accelerate Lu Ming's cultivation speed. What a great place! Lu Ming immediately continued cultivating. The cultivation lasted for 2 days. On this day, while Lu Ming was cultivating, he suddenly felt the badge vibrating slightly. Lu Ming stopped cultivating and took a look at the badge. Someone is outside. Lu Ming thought. Who could it be? Could it be Jian Fengyun? Lu Ming did not know many people in the Emperor God Palace. Who would be looking for him now? He rose from his seat and walked out. The badge glowed, and the light screen parted automatically. Outside the residence, a handsome young man in a white robe stood with his hands behind his back. The young man was around 27 or 28 years old. He stood with his hands behind his back without emitting any aura, but Lu Ming felt like he was looking up at a tall mountain. The young man stood there casually like an insurmountable mountain. Such a high cultivation. This person is definitely a peerless expert of the martial emperor realm. Lu Ming's eyes flashed as he thought. The young man in white looked at Lu Ming with a gentle smile and said, "Lu Ming?" "Yes, I am." "May I know who you are?" Lu Ming asked. "I am Mu Xiuyuan, an ordinary emperor god palace divine guard." The young man in white robe smiled. "Your surname is Mu?" Lu Ming's heart stirred. He asked tentatively, "Oh. I have never seen Brother Mu before. May I know why Brother Mu is looking for me?" "It's nothing important. But since you have just arrived, I have to remind you of something." Mu Xiuyuan said. "What is it?" Lu Ming asked. "Lu Ming, you haven't been out for the past few days. Now, the new batch of Tian Divine Guards is spreading the rumor that the Eastern Sky Divine Guards don't live up to their reputation. They have the lowest combat power and the weakest cultivation level." Mu Xiuyuan said. "Is there such a thing?" Lu Ming frowned. "It's absolutely true. Moreover, this time, the east side is indeed the weakest. The south, north, and west sides all have half-step king-level geniuses. The other 3 divine guards all have half-step king-level geniuses. Moreover, the south and west sides each have 2 half-step king-level geniuses. The competition is extremely intense. Only the east side doesn't have a single half-step king. I heard that the 2 defeated half-step kings in the south and west are already eyeing you. I'm afraid they will challenge you. Once you are defeated, they will seize the throne of your Eastern Sky Divine Guard and occupy your residence. More importantly, they will take away your spot to enter the 100 Gods slope." Mu Xiuyuan said. "Oh?" Lu Ming's eyes flickered. He then looked at Mu Xiuyuan and said, "I'm more curious. Why are you telling me this for no reason? You don't need to know about this. Be careful during this period of time." After saying this, Mu Xiuyuan turned around and took a step forward. His figure disappeared. What a fast speed! Lu Ming's eyes flickered. Even with his eyesight, he almost failed to see how Mu Xiuyuan left. I'm afraid this Mu Xiuyuan is not only a first-layer martial emperor. He might be even stronger. Who exactly is he? Why did he remind me out of kindness? His surname is also Mu. I wonder what is his relationship with Senior Mullins. Lu Ming's mind was filled with doubts. After pondering for a long time, he still could not figure it out. Forget it, I'll go and sort it out. It's time to convert the resources into strength. Lu Ming muttered, turned and walked into the courtyard. A moment later, in an ancient palace of the Emperor Heaven God Palace, Mu Xiuyuan was reporting the news to an old man. I've already reminded Lu Ming. Mu Xiuyuan said. That's good. Although Lu Ming is not bad, he's still too weak compared to that person. We shouldn't help him too much. It's enough to remind him that he still has to rely on himself to become an expert. Only by going through hardships will he be able to grow stronger. Only then will he have a chance to face that person in the future. The old man let out a sigh and said. It's going to be difficult. However, that little girl does have a good eye, to be able to find such a genius at a tiny place like the Cloud Monarch mountain range. Mu Xiuyuan said smilingly. The two chatted for a while longer, before Mu Xiuyuan excused himself. Little girl, you can't go against your father's decision. Chapter 436. Lu Ming entered the Temple of Paragon and took out all the storage rings he had obtained during this period of time to clear them out. After a day, he finally finished clearing them out. The rewards this time were terrifying and had greatly exceeded Lu Ming's expectations. There were too many of them. The most important thing was Zhongsheng's storage ring. In Zhongsheng's storage ring, there were more than 1,000 storage rings. All of them were obtained by Zhongsheng after killing other geniuses, and he had yet to check them out. After checking them out, Lu Ming was dumbfounded. Spiritual crystals, various middle and upper spiritual crystals. If converted to lower spiritual crystals, he would have a total of 56 billion spiritual crystals. Yes, more than 50 billion spirit crystals. How terrifying was that? Lu Ming's heart trembled and his eyes were filled with joy. There were also some other materials, such as spiritual weapons, that were not included. Ha ha ha, I'm rich. These spiritual crystals are enough for me to use for a period of time. If I convert all these spiritual crystals into strength, my strength will increase by a lot. Lu Ming thought happily. Then, he moved his hand and 2 black withered branches appeared in his hand. These 2 black withered branches were the ones that had been shot out from the gate of heaven. Originally, Lu Ming had only obtained one of them. The other one was with Li Qiushui. However, since Li Qiushui had been killed by him, this withered branch naturally fell into his hands. I wonder what use it is. Lu Ming muttered and kept it. Then, Lu Ming got up and left the courtyard. He turned into a ray of light and flew into the distance. The place he was going to was a famous place in the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace, Mystical Treasure Tower. In the Mystical Treasure Tower, one could exchange for all kinds of treasures and buy and sell all kinds of treasures. The Mystical Treasure Tower was extremely majestic. It was a few hundred meters tall and took up an area of a few thousand acres. There were many people coming and going inside and it was very lively. It's so huge! Lu Ming exclaimed. In fact, every sect would have a facility like the Mystical Treasure Tower so that it would be convenient for their disciples to exchange for treasures. The Mystic Essence Sword sect also had one, but it was much smaller than the Mystical Treasure Tower in the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace. Lu Ming walked in. There were people coming and going in the hall. There were at least a few thousand people. Look, who is that? Lu Ming, he is Lu Ming, this time's Eastern Sky Divine Guard. So he's Lu Ming. He's quite young. Humph, what Eastern Sky Divine Guard? He was just lucky. There wasn't a decent expert in the East, so he seized the Eastern Sky Divine Guard. That's right. If we put him in the south of us. He's not even in the top 5. Just wait. That defeated half-step king in the south is coveting the throne of the Eastern Sky Divine Guard. He has been in closed-door training for the past few days. As soon as he comes out, he will definitely challenge Lu Ming. His Eastern Sky Divine Guard position won't last long. That's right. He's not strong, but he has such good cultivation resources. Who would be convinced? Let's wait and see. The crowd began to discuss among themselves. Of course, most of them were D-Tian Divine Guards who had just joined this year. There were also some D-Tian Divine Guards from the previous batch who looked over curiously. Lu Ming naturally heard them. He sneered and didn't bother to pay attention to them. He walked into a room. The room was the place to buy and sell items and exchange items. Little brother, do you need anything? An old man with a smile asked. I want to exchange low-grade spirit crystals, mid-grade spirit crystals, and high-grade spirit crystals for supreme-grade spirit crystals. I wonder if that's possible? Lu Ming asked. Of course, but you'll have to pay 1%. The old man replied with a smile. He didn't feel surprised. There were many people who came to exchange for supreme-grade spirit crystals every day. When one's cultivation reached half-step king or even king, other grades of spirit crystals were useless. Only supreme-grade spirit crystals would have an effect. Therefore, martial artists above half-step king would exchange other grades of spirit crystals for supreme-grade spirit crystals, 1%. Lu Ming's eyes flickered. Little brother, how many spirit crystals do you have to exchange? The old man continued to ask with a smile. Yes, I have 50 billion low-grade spirit crystals. I want to exchange all of them for supreme-grade spirit crystals. Lu Ming said. Okay. What? 50 billion? The old man started to agree casually. However, he reacted in the next moment. The smile on his face froze and his eyes widened. Previously, he thought that Lu Ming shouldn't be too old and probably didn't have many spirit crystals to exchange. Never in his wildest dreams did he expect that Lu Ming would say 50 billion. Why? I can't exchange. Then I'll exchange for less. Lu Ming said. No, you can exchange, you can exchange. The old man hurriedly shouted. The smile on his face became even brighter. Previously, his smile was just a professional habit. Now, his smile was completely sincere. If he exchanged 50 billion low-grade spirit crystals, the fee would be as high as 500 million. He would be able to get a large commission from it. How could he not be happy? Little brother, please wait a moment. The old man hurriedly ran out. After a while, he rushed back with a storage ring in his hand. Little brother, there are a total of 50,000 supreme-grade spirit crystals. You can count them. The old man handed the storage ring to Lu Ming. Lu Ming took it. With a thought, a milky white crystal appeared in his hand. It was filled with rich energy. The spirit chi contained in the supreme-grade spirit crystal had almost turned into a substance. Ordinary martial artists couldn't refine it at all. Only half-step kings and above could refine it. Lu Ming scanned it and found that there were exactly 50,000 supreme-grade spirit crystals in the storage ring. Lu Ming nodded and waved his hand. A few storage rings appeared. Senior, there are mid-grade spirit crystals, upper-grade spirit crystals, and low-grade spirit crystals in here. There are a total of 50 billion spirit crystals. You can count them. Lu Ming said. Okay. The old man took the storage ring and began to count. Lu Ming waited patiently. The old man took a full 2 hours to finish counting. Yes, it's 50 billion spirit crystals. The old man nodded and put it away with a smile. He asked, Little brother, is there anything else you need? Senior, I have some spiritual weapons, martial skills, and materials. Can you help me take a look and see how many supreme-grade spirit crystals they can be exchanged for? Lu Ming took out a few more storage rings. The old man took them and counted them carefully. These things were worth about 10 billion spirit crystals in the end. Lu Ming had another 10,000 supreme-grade spirit crystals. The old man was grinning from ear to ear. Senior, I need to buy a batch of half-step king's demonic cores. How many spirit crystals for one? Lu Ming asked. Lu Ming planned to buy a batch of demonic cores to reach the peak of the 9th level of martial ancestor realm as soon as possible. Once he reached the peak of the 9th level of martial ancestor realm, he would be able to fully comprehend the force. A half-step king's demonic core, 100 supreme-grade spirit crystals for one. The old man said. That's expensive. Chapter 437. 100 supreme-grade spiritual crystals were equivalent to 100 million low-grade spiritual crystals. Senior, give me 100. Lu Ming said. 100? The old man was shocked. However, after the series of events, he was already numb to it. Then, he took out 100 half-step king beast cores and Lu Ming took out 10,000 supreme-grade spiritual crystals. They exchanged money and goods. Lu Ming was very satisfied with the beast cores. He sighed inwardly. The Emperor Heaven Divine Palace was indeed one of the strongest forces in the eastern part of the Tianxian region. If he was in the Blazing Sun Empire or even the Cloud Emperor mountain range, it would be impossible to buy a half-step king beast core. Lu Ming kept the beast cores and left the mystical treasure house with satisfaction. Back at the eastern sky courtyard, Lu Ming sat down with his legs crossed. He waved his hand and 100 beast cores floated in the air. Begin, devour. Roar. The 9 dragons' bloodline appeared and roared into the sky. It opened its mouth and inhaled. Shush. Shush. Instantly, 5 beast cores were swallowed by the 9 dragons' bloodline. Boom. As soon as the demonic core entered the mouth of the 9 dragons' bloodline, it exploded and turned into surging energy that was constantly refined. After the 9 dragons' bloodline reached the 5th grade king grade, its devouring and refining ability had increased by several folds. The refining speed was terrifying. Huff, the energy within the beast cores was refined and the impurities and harmful substances were left behind. The pure energy essence flowed into Lu Ming's body. Lu Ming circulated the true dragon battle art and started to break through. He had already reached the peak of the 8th grade martial ancestor realm. Now, he was trying to break through to the 9th grade. Boom. Boom. The beast cores of half-step king beasts were filled with energy. The bottleneck of the 9th grade martial ancestor realm started to loosen. Not enough. 5 more. The 9 dragons' bloodline opened its mouth and swallowed another 5 beast cores. Boom. Pang Bo's energy rushed into Lu Ming's body. Lu Ming's body shook and he broke through the bottleneck of the 9th grade martial ancestor realm. He had reached the 9th grade martial ancestor realm. Continue. Break through to the peak of the 9th grade martial ancestor realm. Lu Ming's eyes lit up as he continued to devour the half-step demon king's monster cores. After reaching the 9th layer martial ancestor realm and devouring the beast cores of half-martial emperor beasts, the rate of improvement of his cultivation was significantly slower. However, Lu Ming had bought a total of 100 Yao cores, which was enough to support him. Lu Ming's cultivation base continued to rise. 3 days later, Lu Ming had refined all 100 beast cores, allowing his cultivation to reach the peak of the 9th layer martial ancestor realm. At this point, no matter how Lu Ming attacked, it would be difficult for him to make any progress. The next step was to comprehend force and intent from force. As long as one comprehended a trace of the concept of heaven and earth, he would be able to use the concept of heaven and earth to refine his true qi. Slowly, he would be able to transform his true qi into a higher level of energy, true essence. This process was extremely difficult. When most of the true qi in one's body had been converted into true essence, one still needed to comprehend a complete concept of heaven and earth and condense a concept rune in one's sea of consciousness. Then, they would have to go through the test of the lightning tribulation to become a king. Becoming a king was a cut, a natural chasm. It was as difficult as ascending to the heavens to cross it. Countless geniuses and geniuses were often stuck at the half-martial emperor realm, unable to make any progress. There were many who had reached the final step and condensed the concept rune, but died tragically under the lightning tribulation. There were too many examples like this. However, once one broke through to the martial emperor realm, one would experience a substantial leap. Not only would one's battle strength increase greatly, even one's lifespan would increase to 1,000 years. A king had a lifespan of 1,000 years. They could overlook the changes of the world and see the rise and fall of generation after generation. As for a martial ancestor realm, they could only live for 200 years at most, which was not much longer than an ordinary person. In a sense, a king had already broken away from the category of mortals. It was too difficult to break through to the martial emperor realm. For example, the Blazing Sun Empire had not produced a king for over 1,000 years. Although some middle-level empires had kings, they were basically low-level kings. It might take hundreds or thousands of years for one king to appear. It was not bad to have 2 king-level kings. Higher-level empires had more king-level kings. Many geniuses claimed to have the potential to become a martial emperor when they were young. However, most of them were exaggerated and only had a possibility. Most of them could not break through to the martial emperor realm in the end. Lu Ming's next step was to comprehend the 2 forces to perfection. Only after his force was perfected could he take another step and comprehend the intent. Dao Enlightenment Palace. Lu Ming's eyes flashed. Then, he got up and left the courtyard, heading towards the Dao Enlightenment Palace. The Dao Enlightenment Palace could help people comprehend force, so he naturally had to use it. Soon, Lu Ming arrived in front of the Dao Enlightenment Palace. In front of the Dao Enlightenment Palace, there were 7 white-haired old men sitting cross-legged. Each of them looked like an ordinary old man. They did not emit any aura. They looked like 7 ordinary old men. However, Lu Ming did not dare to underestimate them. Those who could guard the Dao Enlightenment Palace were definitely martial kings. Although they looked ordinary now, once they unleashed their power, it would be earth-shattering. Senior, I want to enter the Dao Enlightenment Palace to cultivate. Lu Ming cupped his fists and bowed. Okay, 100 supreme-grade spiritual crystals a day. How many days do you want to enter? An old man with a face full of wrinkles said. I want a month. Lu Ming arrived. Then, he took out 3,000 supreme-grade spiritual crystals and handed them to the old man. The old man took them and nodded. Okay, 1 month. Then, a ray of light entered the gate of the Dao Enlightenment Palace. The gate rippled with rays of light and a light screen appeared. On the light screen, a vortex appeared. The gate is open. Go in. Remember, 1 month later, the Dao Enlightenment Palace will send you out on time. The old man reminded him. Thank you, Senior. Lu Ming cupped his fists and then strode forward. He stepped into the vortex. Heaven and earth spun. In the next moment, Lu Ming found himself standing in chaos. Yes, it was chaos all around. There was no up or down. It was hazy. Boom. Suddenly, there was a deafening explosion. Then, Lu Ming saw that in the chaos far away, there was a dot of light shining and then exploding. Whoosh! The chaos was surging. Endless will of heaven and earth and Dharma were entangled and evolved into a complete world. This was a scene that could only be seen when heaven and earth were created. The will of heaven and earth, what a powerful will of heaven and earth. There are so many will of heaven and earth. Lu Ming felt that his surroundings were full of various will of heaven and earth. Suddenly, 2 will of heaven and earth became very obvious and filled the world. They were the will of wind and will of fire. They were also the 2 forces that Lu Ming had comprehended. Could it be that different forces or will of heaven and earth appear here according to the different will of heaven and earth that each person comprehended? Martial Emperor De is indeed difficult to predict. Lu Ming's eyes flashed and he thought seriously. Forget it, let's comprehend first. Immediately, Lu Ming sat down cross-legged and let himself enter a state of emptiness. He extended his mind to comprehend the will of wind and fire in heaven and earth. Chapter 438. First of all, Lu Ming had comprehended the fire force. Fire was scorching hot, explosive, and incinerating everything. It represented destruction, but it also represented life. Lu Ming's mind was clear as he focused on comprehending the fire force. With the fire aura that he had comprehended and the fire concept in the outside world, Lu Ming's understanding of the fire aura improved by leaps and bounds. Time passed quickly as Lu Ming cultivated. In the blink of an eye, 7 days had passed. Cloud Emperor Mountain Range, Blazing Sun Empire, Mystic Essence Sword Sect. In the conference hall of the Mystic Essence Sword Sect, Mystic Essence Sword Sect Sect Master Lin Shui, Scarlet Cloud Valley's Valley Master Ling Patian, Ghost Moon Saber Sect's Shengguan Ming, Mystic Essence Sword Sect and Scarlet Cloud Valley's upper echelons, Hua Qi and the other imperial family's upper echelons, and Yen Quan were all gathered together. "How's the war going?" Lin Shui asked a Mystic Essence Sword Sect's golden-robed elder. "Sect Master, it's the same as before. The Decimo Sword Sect is mainly defending. They only occasionally launch small-scale attacks." The golden-robed elder reported. "Looks like we were right. That treacherous Qiu Wuyang must be waiting for the results of the D Tian Divine Guard selection. If Qiu Changkong joins the D Tian Divine Guard selection, he can borrow the power of the D Tian Divine Palace to deal with us." Lin Shui said with a solemn expression. "That's right. The D Tian Divine Guards have great power. If they mobilize the forces of some mid-tier empires to deal with us, we'll be doomed. Moreover, Qiu Changkong has a backer," Shengguan Ming said in a deep voice. Everyone sighed and their expressions were solemn. This question had been weighing on everyone's mind for more than half a year. Now, we can only hope that Lu Ming will succeed. If Lu Ming becomes a D Tian Divine Guard, Qiu Changkong will have some scruples even if he joins the D Tian Divine Guard. Lin Shui said. According to the time, the selection of the D Tian Divine Guards should have ended 10 days ago. Is there still no news from them? Ling Patian said anxiously. I've already sent a group of people to wait for news in the Cloud Desolate Empire's imperial capital. Once there's news, they will send it back at the fastest speed. Lin Shui said. It's really making me anxious. Ling Patian grinned. He was an impatient person to begin with, and this matter was related to the fate of the sect, which made him even more anxious. Calm down. If it's a blessing, it's not a disaster. If it's a disaster, we can't avoid it. Lin Shui said. Although he said that, he was still very anxious. Sect leader, there's news. At this moment, a middle-aged burly man flew in from outside and shouted loudly. This middle-aged man was dressed in a golden robe. He was clearly a golden-robed elder. Elder Feng, is there any news about the D Tian Divine Guard selection? Lin Shui stood up and asked nervously. Not bad, there's news. Elder Feng nodded heavily. Qiu Changkong, how is Qiu Changkong? Did he become an Empyrean Divine Guard? Ling Patian asked anxiously. Qiu Changkong? He has indeed become a D Tian Divine Guard. Elder Feng pondered for a moment before he said. What? Qiu Changkong really became a D Tian Divine Guard? The expressions of Lin Shui, Ling Patian, Hua Qi, and the others changed drastically. The worst thing had happened. Qiu Changkong had successfully become a D Tian Divine Guard. Everyone's heart was extremely heavy. According to the news, Qiu Changkong had a fortuitous encounter this time and became extremely powerful. Not only did he become a D Tian Divine Guard, but he also passed the last stage and participated in the Eastern Sky Divine Guard selection. Many of the strongest geniuses of the D Tian region were defeated by him. In the end, he entered the top 3 of the Eastern Sky Divine Guard selection. Elder Feng said. What? Everyone's expression changed drastically. Boom. Boom. Everyone couldn't control their aura and stood up from their chairs. Their faces were pale and they looked extremely ugly. How could this be? How could this be? Lin Shui kept repeating. She couldn't accept the news. Ling Patian, Hua Qi, and the others didn't look any better. How could Qiu Changkong be so strong? How could this be? How could this be? Many people growled in disbelief. They really hoped that they were dreaming. Not only did Qiu Changkong join the D Tian Divine Guard, he even participated in the Eastern Sky Divine Guard selection and entered the top 3. This was too unbelievable. At the same time, it was an extremely heavy blow to everyone. If Qiu Changkong was so terrifying, he would definitely be put in an important position in the D Tian Divine Palace. His status and authority would definitely be greater. It must be his master. If it wasn't for his master's help, how could Qiu Changkong reach this step? An old uncle of the royal family growled in dissatisfaction. Since Qiu Changkong had reached this step, the royal family would never be able to take revenge. Bang! Lin Shui seemed to have been drained of all her energy. She sat heavily on the chair with a trace of despair in her eyes. Even the strongest genius of a super-large region wasn't Qiu Changkong's match. How could they resist? What could they use to resist? Well, sect leader and everyone else, I haven't finished my news. Elder Feng quickly said when he saw everyone's expression. You haven't finished? Could it be that Qiu Changkong has done something even more shocking? Ling Patian asked. That's not it. It's about Lu Ming. Elder Feng said. Oh? Did Lu Ming join the D Tian Divine Guard? Hua Qi pulled himself together and asked. That's right. Lu Ming is indeed a genius. He has successfully joined the D Tian Divine Guard. It is said that only 3 people have joined the D Tian Divine Guard in Emperor Yun's 36 empires. Elder Feng said somewhat proudly. Lu Ming has joined the D Tian Divine Guard. Huh, I knew that he would succeed. Hua Qi's eyes lit up as he laughed. He was happy for Lu Ming. However, the others weren't happy. If they hadn't heard about Qiu Changkong's news, they would have been extremely excited. But now, they couldn't be happy. The difference between an ordinary D Tian Divine Guard and a genius who could participate in the Eastern Sky Divine Guard competition was too great. There was no comparison at all. Moreover, Qiu Changkong had entered the top 3. Not only was his combat strength much stronger than an ordinary D Tian Divine Guard, but his status and authority were also much higher. He wouldn't be afraid of Lu Ming at all. Their situation was still worrisome. Lu Ming is indeed a peerless genius. He can actually become an D Tian Divine Guard. He can be said to be a genius that only appears once in 1,000 years in the Blazing Sun Empire. Unfortunately, he met Qiu Changkong. Lin Shui sighed. Well, sect leader and everyone else, I haven't finished my news. Lu Ming didn't just join the D Tian Divine Guard. Elder Feng said again. Could it be that Lu Ming also passed the last round and participated in the Eastern Sky Divine Guard competition? Lin Shui, Ling Patian, Hua Qi and the others' eyes suddenly lit up. Chapter 439. To be able to participate in the competition of the Eastern Sky Divine Guards was a qualitative leap. He had completely joined the ranks of the strongest geniuses in the eastern region of Tianxian domain. If Lu Ming could reach this step, even if he wasn't Qiu Changkong's opponent, he wouldn't be too far behind. He would definitely be valued by the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace. Qiu Changkong would more or less have some scruples. Then, they would have some leeway to deal with him. At the scene, everyone looked at Elder Feng with incomparable anticipation, hoping that he would nod his head. Elder Feng nodded his head and said, yes, Lu Ming not only passed the last round and participated in the competition of the Emperor Heaven Divine Guards, but also. Lu Ming actually passed the last round. That's great, that's great. I really didn't misjudge him. This time, the Decimo Sword Sect will have to think twice if they want to destroy us. Before Elder Feng finished his words, Ling Patian laughed crazily. His face was full of joy, and even his beard stood up. That's right. Lu Ming is a genius. Back then, I let him down and misjudged him. Lin Shui also sighed, but her eyes were also filled with ecstasy. I knew it. Lu Ming can definitely create a miracle. Hua Qi's face was also filled with ecstasy. The others were also beaming with joy and were incomparably excited. Before this, they had never thought that Lu Ming could also reach this step. This was really great news. Someone come, tell this good news to Master Lu and Madame Lu. Lin Shui laughed. Wait a minute, sect leader, I haven't finished my words. Elder Feng shouted again. The scene suddenly quieted down again. I say, brother, you're a big man. Can you finish your words in one go? Don't be so wishy-washy. Ling Patian shouted. Sect leader Ling, I wanted to say something just now, but you interrupted me. Elder Feng said with a bitter face. This, weren't you too excited just now? Ling Patian grinned. Alright, Elder Feng, what other news do you have? Tell me all at once. Lin Shui said. Yes, sect leader, it's about Lu Ming. Not only did Lu Ming participate in the competition of the Eastern Sky Divine Guards, but he also seized the throne in the end. Elder Feng nodded his head and said the news. When he finished speaking, he felt that the atmosphere was not right. Silence. There was complete silence. There was not the slightest sound. Even the sound of breathing had disappeared. Everyone was dumbfounded. Look at Elder Feng's face. Elder Feng smiled bitterly. Everyone's expressions were within his expectations. This was because when he first heard the news, he had the same expression. In fact, it was even more exaggerated than now. You're saying that Lu Ming seized the Eastern Sky Divine Guards? After a long while, Lin Shui reacted first and asked in disbelief. You're not lying to us, are you? Ling Patian asked in disbelief. Elder Feng said. Lin Shui, Ling Patian, Hua Qi and the others looked at each other. They could see the indescribable excitement in each other's eyes. Eastern Sky Divine Guards, Eastern Sky Divine Guards, ha. Let's see what 10 Directions Sword Sect will do now. Ling Patian laughed wildly. A peerless monster, a peerless monster. Sheng Wanming sighed again and again. Hua Qi and some people who had a good relationship with Lu Ming, such as Yen Lan, were so excited that their bodies were trembling. Lan Er, you have a good eye. Now, you have hope. Yen Lan sighed. Lu Ming, I didn't expect you to reach this step. Yen Quan sighed in his heart. He was now glad that he had made the decision to help Lu Ming for 10 years. With Lu Ming's talent, he believed that he would soon surpass him. In the future, he would most likely need Lu Ming's help. At the scene, everyone was extremely excited. They almost shouted out loud to express their emotions. They didn't even dare to dream that Lu Ming could seize the Eastern Sky Divine Guards. This was the same as trampling the strongest geniuses of many super-large regions under his feet. Being able to participate in the competition for the Eastern Sky Divine Guards was already unimaginable, let alone the Eastern Sky Divine Guards. This time, Lu Ming would definitely be put in an important position. Qiu Changkong would definitely not dare to act rashly and use his power to interfere with the Blazing Sun Empire's affairs. Sect Master, Sect Master. At this moment, a silver-robed elder rushed in. What's the matter? Lin Shui was in a good mood and asked with a smile. Sect Master, the Cloud Desolate Empire's imperial family is here to congratulate you. The silver-robed elder said. He didn't know the news and was a little surprised. He didn't know why the Cloud Desolate Empire's imperial family was here. The Cloud Desolate Empire was undoubtedly the strongest empire among the Cloud Emperor's 36 empires. It was more than 10 times stronger than the Blazing Sun Empire. They really came. Quick, go out and welcome them. Lin Shui quickly got up. The others followed. When they arrived at the Mystic Essence Sword Sect's mountain gate, they saw dozens of people. A total of 30 people stood in the air. Without a doubt, they were all martial ancestor realm experts. The leader wore a dragon robe and emitted a powerful aura. He was actually a half-step king. The Cloud Desolate Empire's distinguished guests have arrived. Please forgive me for not welcoming you. Lin Shui quickly cupped her fists. You must be the Mystic Essence Sword Sect's Sect Master Lin. There's no need to be so polite. I'm the Daki King of the Cloud Desolate Empire. I'm here to congratulate Sect Master Lin. I heard that Lu Ming came from the Mystic Essence Sword Sect. I didn't expect the Mystic Essence Sword Sect to produce such a genius like Lu Ming. He took the Eastern Sky Divine Guards and greatly increased the prestige and reputation of the Cloud Emperor's 36 empires. He made the Cloud Emperor's mountain range famous. Therefore, I'm here to congratulate you. The middle-aged man wearing a dragon robe said. Lin Shui and the others were extremely excited. Although they were extremely excited when they heard Elder Feng's words, they were still afraid that the news might be wrong. However, now that the Cloud Desolate Empire's prince had personally come to congratulate them, there was no doubt about it. Your Highness, please come in. Servants, prepare a banquet to welcome your Highness. Lin Shui ordered loudly. Yes. Someone immediately went to carry out the order. Also, inform Master Lu and Madame Lu of this news. Also, invite Master Lu and Madame Lu here. Remember, you must be respectful and not neglect them. Lin Shui ordered. Yes, Sect Master, don't worry. A golden-robed elder went to carry out the order. Oh. So Lu Ming's parents are here too. I would like to see what kind of people could give birth to such a peerless genius like Lu Ming. The Cloud Desolate Empire's Prince Daki laughed. The Mystic Essence Sword Sect immediately held a huge banquet to celebrate. When Lu Yuntian and Li Ping heard the news, they were extremely excited and happy. Li Ping was so emotional that tears flowed down her cheeks. In contrast to the Mystic Essence Sword Sect celebration, the atmosphere in the 10 Directions Sword Sect's conference hall was oppressive. Damn it, Lu Ming, how could he take the Eastern Sky Divine Guards? How is this possible? Qiu Wuyang roared, emitting a terrifying aura and icy cold killing intent. In the hall, the others kept quiet out of fear. Chapter 440. Dao Comprehension Palace, Emperor Heaven Divine Palace. Whoosh. 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 Lu Ming's surroundings were suddenly filled with gusts of wind that were as cold as knives. Whoosh. Lu Ming suddenly stood up. His body trembled, and his body became as light as a feather as he floated around like a ghost. After a while, he stopped where he was. My wind force has finally reached perfection. Lu Ming's eyes were extremely bright. His wind force and fire force had already reached the limit of greater perfection. After 7 days of comprehension in Dao Comprehension Palace, he had finally reached perfection. However, this also meant that Dao Comprehension Palace was indeed miraculous. In just 7 days, it allowed Lu Ming to break through. Now, let's start comprehending the fire force. Following this, Lu Ming sat down cross-legged and continued comprehending the fire force. In the blink of an eye, another 7 days passed. Lu Ming's fire force had also reached perfection. In just half a month's time, Lu Ming's wind and fire powers had both reached the perfected stage. Buzz! Lu Ming held his spear and gathered the wind force and fire force. With a slight tremble, space rumbled, and a spear light shot out, flying an unknown distance. Lu Ming revealed a satisfied smile. With the wind force and fire force reaching perfection, Lu Ming's battle prowess had increased by a large margin. There was a huge difference between perfection and greater perfection, a difference of several times. After merging the wind force and fire force, its power was even stronger. At this moment, Lu Ming's battle prowess was already infinitely close to a Battle 7 genius. Yes, Lu Ming had already reached Battle 6 genius. Now, he was infinitely close to Battle 7 genius. I set a time limit of 1 month. There is still half a month left. I can cultivate the 3 ultimate skills of the Dragon God. Lu Ming pondered. Now that both wind force had reached perfection, he could cultivate the 3 ultimate skills of the Dragon God to the 2nd level. Just like that, Lu Ming continued his closed-door cultivation, wholeheartedly cultivating the 3 ultimate skills of the Dragon God. In Tao Comprehension Palace, combining the wind force and fire force to cultivate the 3 ultimate skills of the Dragon God, his speed was terrifyingly fast. Half a month later, Lu Ming successfully cultivated the 3 ultimate skills of the Dragon God to the 2nd level. This caused Lu Ming's battle prowess to soar once more, reaching the level of a 7th battle genius. These spiritual crystals were well spent. Lu Ming's face was full of smiles. At this time, a month was almost up. Lu Ming left the Tao Enlightenment Palace and flew towards the Eastern Sky Monastery. Soon, Lu Ming arrived at the Eastern Sky Courtyard. Using his Divine Guard medallion, he activated the inscription formation and walked in. However, he did not notice that in the distant sky, there was a young man watching him enter. Lu Ming has finally finished his cultivation and returned. I will immediately report this to Senior Brother Kai Go. With a flash, he flew toward one of the many courtyards of the Tian Divine Guards. Lu Ming returned to the courtyard and sat on a stone chair in a pavilion in the courtyard. He poured himself a cup of wine and slowly drank while admiring the small bridge and flowing water. After being in seclusion for more than a month, it was time for him to relax a little. I wonder where Senior Sister Mullins is. If she is here, she should have heard the news that I have become an Eastern Sky Divine Guard and should come to find me. It seems that I have to take some time to inquire about it. I wonder how the war in the Burning Sun Empire is going. Presumably, the results of the Tian Divine Guard selection have already been sent back to the Burning Sun Empire. Now that I have become an Eastern Sky Divine Guard, Qiu Changkong should not dare to act rashly. The war in the Burning Sun Empire should not change too much in a short period of time. The most troublesome one is his master. I wonder which great figure in the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace is Qiu Changkong's master. Lu Ming pondered while drinking. Lu Ming, get out here. Suddenly, a loud roar swept over like a storm. Lu Ming's eyes suddenly shot out 2 long beams of light, flickering. Finally, Lu Ming's lips curled into a sneer. Then, he poured a cup of wine and drank it in one gulp. He stood up and walked out in large strides. Walking out of the courtyard, he saw a 24-year-old youth standing in the air, staring at the Eastern Sky Courtyard with shining eyes. Seeing Lu Ming, the youth's eyes lit up and said loudly, "Lu Ming, you have been hiding like a turtle for more than a month. Finally, you have appeared. Lu Ming, I am too lazy to talk nonsense with you. The throne of the Eastern Sky Divine Guard is not something you can sit on. You are not qualified. Now, give it to me, lest you embarrass yourself." As soon as he saw Lu Ming, the young man shouted loudly. Swish! Swish! Just now, the youth shouted so loudly that it had already alerted the other Tian Divine Guards on the mountain peak. At this moment, figures flew out from the courtyards and stood in the air, looking over. It's Kai Go. Kai Go is finally going to challenge Lu Ming. Kai Go is a half-step king. He was defeated in the battle of the Southern Sky Divine Guard. His battle strength is extremely terrifying. Lu Ming is in danger. This time, the East Side originally did not have any experts, not even a half-step king. Lu Ming was able to obtain the throne of the Eastern Sky Divine Guard purely by luck. That's right, the 4 Sky Divine Guards belong to the capable. Kai Go should challenge him and seize the throne of the Eastern Sky Divine Guard. The surrounding Tian Divine Guards discussed spiritedly. Qiu Changkong and Zhang Sheng also appeared in the crowd. After more than a month, their injuries had already healed. At this moment, their faces were filled with joy. Lu Ming, even if you seize the Eastern Sky Divine Guard, what can you do? Won't it still be taken away? Qiu Changkong laughed in his heart. I didn't expect the other 3 directions to be so strong. Fortunately, I did not seize the Eastern Sky Divine Guard. Otherwise, it would be a joke if it was snatched away before my butt even warmed up. Lu Ming, you are about to become a joke. Should I thank you? Zhang Sheng also sneered. Who are you? Lu Ming naturally heard the others' discussion, so he deliberately asked. My name is Kai Go. Lu Ming, I advise you to withdraw from the Eastern Sky Divine Guard. Kai Go said. Sure enough, what a noob dog. I say, dog, you came running to me just for such a trivial matter? Lu Ming curled his lips and said. As soon as these words came out, the others looked at each other in dismay. Kai Go's eyes suddenly turned red as a cold killing intent erupted. His face was incomparably distorted as he roared, Lu Ming, you little bastard, what did you say? You are courting death, you are courting death. I originally wanted to let you go, but now, you are dead for sure. Lu Ming actually dared to call him a dog in front of everyone. He deserved to die 10,000 times over. A dog, don't bark so loudly. Don't you want to challenge me? Fine, I agree to fight you. Tomorrow morning, on the Divine Guard battle stage. Lu Ming said loudly. His voice was clear and loud, and it spread far and wide. Everyone was taken aback. They did not expect Lu Ming to agree so easily. Kai Go himself was also taken aback for a moment. Then, he revealed a cold and vicious smile and said, Fine, little bastard, then I will let you live for one more day. Then scram, you dog. Lu Ming said indifferently. You. Kai Go gnashed his teeth. He was so angry that he almost suffered internal injuries. Humph, you can show off now. Tomorrow I will make you cry. Chapter 441. The others discussed among themselves and left as well. Lu Ming actually dared to offend Kai Go. How unwise. Looks like I don't even need to do anything. You're going to die in Kai Go's hands. Qiu Changkong sneered and left. Soon after, the news of the battle between Lu Ming and Kai Go spread like wildfire. Lu Ming turned and entered the East Sky courtyard, where he began to meditate. The sun set and rose again. A day had passed. The Divine Guard battle platform was built on a mountain peak. The peak of the mountain was wide and flat, and there was a platform that was 10 miles long and wide. As the name suggested, it was used for battles between Empyrean Divine Guards. The platform was made of black iron and was engraved with inscriptions. Even if a low-level king fought on it, he wouldn't be able to break the platform. The Divine Guard battle platform was a place of life and death. Early in the morning, the Divine Guard battle platform was already crowded with people. There were at least 10,000 people. This time, there were about 6,000 to 7,000 new Empyrean Divine Guards in the entire eastern region of Tianxian Domain. It could be said that apart from those who were cultivating in seclusion or had important matters to attend to, most of them had come. Even some of the previous batch of Empyrean Divine Guards had come after receiving the news. After all, it was related to the change of the Eastern Sky Divine Guards. Naturally, it would attract attention. Whoosh! A figure rapidly flew through the air and landed on the Divine Guard battle platform. Kai Go is here. Someone shouted. As soon as Kai Go landed on the battle platform, he crossed his arms and closed his eyes to rest. Whoosh! Soon after, another figure appeared on the battle platform. Lu Ming is here too. I didn't expect him to dare to come. There's nothing he can do if he doesn't come. The Empyrean Divine Palace has a rule that the 4 heavenly divine guards can be obtained through challenges. If he doesn't come and avoids the challenge, the Empyrean Divine Palace will take away his throne. Lu Ming's arrival caused a heated discussion. Kai Go also opened his eyes. There was a strong murderous intent in his eyes and he did not hide it at all. He said coldly, Lu Ming, if you have any last words, leave them behind. You won't have this chance later. This is exactly what I wanted to say to you. Lu Ming smiled faintly. Hee, is that so? I hope you won't regret it when the time comes. Kai Go sneered. Whoosh! At this moment, a middle-aged man appeared on the fighting ring. Half a time. This matter concerns the change of the Eastern Sky Divine Guard. I will be the witness. The winner will be the Eastern Sky Divine Guard. What else do you have to say? The middle-aged man shouted. No. No. Lu Ming and Kai Go both shook their heads. Following the middle-aged man's announcement, the atmosphere became even more lively. Who do you think will win? Does Lu Ming have a chance to win? Impossible? I don't deny that Lu Ming's talent is terrifying, but his cultivation is too low. He was only at the peak of the 8th layer martial ancestor realm when he was fighting for the position of Eastern Sky Divine Guard. It has only been a month. Even if he were to break through to the 9th layer martial ancestor realm, or even the peak of the 9th layer martial ancestor realm, he would not be a match for Kai Go. Furthermore, it is impossible for him to break through from the peak of the 8th layer martial ancestor realm to the peak of the 9th layer martial ancestor realm in a month. A half martial realm is much stronger than a peak 9th layer martial ancestor realm. It is 2 whole levels higher. Furthermore, Kai Go is an expert between the Battle 4 genius and the Battle 5 genius. In total, Kai Go is more than 6 levels higher than an ordinary peak 9th layer martial ancestor realm. Lu Ming will not be a match for him. For a genius like Kai Go, unless it is a battle of the same level, no one would be able to defeat him when he is at the half martial realm. So, Lu Ming has no chance at all. Lu Ming can't win. The one who said the last sentence was a cold-looking young man in a golden robe. His words attracted the attention of the crowd. He was the other member of the 4 Heavens Divine Guards, the South Heaven Divine Guard, Zhong Hao. Kai Go's strength is not weak. Even I would have a hard time defeating him. It is impossible for Lu Ming to defeat Kai Go. Zhong Hao said resolutely. His cold expression was full of confidence. Brother Zhong is right. Not far away, a glamorous woman said with a smile. She was the North Heaven Divine Guard of the 4 Heavens Divine Guards. Following this, the crowd shifted their gaze to the other side. There stood a handsome young man in a white robe. The strangest thing was that there was a sword-shaped mark between his eyebrows. This made him appear even more mysterious. There was not a single person around him. It was as if they were afraid of him and kept their distance. This man was the last member of the 4 Heavens Divine Guards, the Divine Guard of the Western Sky. At the same time, he was also known as the strongest among the 4 Heavens Divine Guards. During the competition for the position of the Divine Guard of the Western Sky, the other half-step king could not even withstand 3 moves from him. The crowd looked at him, wanting to hear his opinion. However, he did not say a word. Boom! Boom! At this moment, 2 powerful auras shot up into the sky from the fighting ring. Lu Ming and Kai Go were about to make their move. Lu Ming, die. Kai Go shouted coldly. A thin and long cyan sword appeared in his hand. Whoosh! The cyan sword made a light sound and instantly crossed a few hundred meters, stabbing towards Lu Ming. It was so fast that many people could not see the sword's trajectory. Intent, very obviously, Kai Go had already comprehended a trace of concept of wind on the foundation of wind force. Even if it was just a trace of wind intent, Kai Go's battle strength had increased tremendously. Wind fire intent. Lu Ming stabbed out with his long spear. The long spear was condensed with wind fire intent. Clang! The tip of the spear and the tip of the sword collided. Boom! Violent genuine qi filled the air with the power of wind and fire, covering the entire fighting ring. Whoosh! Whoosh! In the next moment, the two figures quickly retreated several miles and stood still. Everyone at the scene was stunned and their eyes widened in shock. Lu Ming can actually block Kai Go's wind intent attack. How is that possible? Did you see that? Lu Ming's cultivation has reached the peak of the 9th level of the martial ancestor realm. What a terrifying cultivation speed. That's not the point. Both of them did not use any martial skills. They were just probing attacks. How could Lu Ming block Kai Go's wind intent? Intent can actually block intent. How is that possible? The crowd was shocked and discussed animatedly. This is the wind fire intent. At this moment, a cold voice rang out. The crowd was shocked because the person who spoke was the divine guard of the western sky, Sheng Wushuang. Lu Ming has comprehended two intents. Moreover, the two intents have merged and reached perfection. Sheng Wushuang said slowly. However, there was no seriousness in his voice. He was just stating a fact as if Lu Ming was not worthy of his attention. Wind-fire intent fusion? No wonder, no wonder. Lu Ming is amazing. He has comprehended two intents and merged them successfully. The most amazing thing is that he has cultivated both to perfection. Chapter 442. Many people were shocked. It wasn't easy to cultivate one force to perfection, let alone two. Moreover, he had successfully merged them. The difficulty of this wasn't just 2 times that of comprehending a force. Instead, it was several times more difficult. No wonder Lu Ming's battle strength is so terrifying. Someone exclaimed. Humph! It's hard to achieve great things with one mind. Sheng Wushuang coldly snorted and said in a disdainful voice. Brother Sheng is right. Zhong Hao laughed. Whoa! At this time, a wolf-like howl sounded in the fighting ring. Kai Go's aura became even stronger. Above his head, a black dog with 2 heads appeared. Two-headed hellhound was an extremely powerful demonic beast. There were 6 silver chakras around its body. It's really a dog. What did I say wrong? Lu Ming curled his lips. He was surprised that Kai Go's bloodline was really a dog. Little bastard, what are you talking about? I'm a 2-headed hellhound. Go to hell. Kai Go shouted and activated his bloodline. At the same time, his long sword trembled and the blade cut through the air. Suddenly, wind blades formed and slashed at Lu Ming. Whoosh! Whoosh! There were at least a dozen wind blades that were sharper than saber radiance. Only those who had comprehended a trace of wind essence could perform this. Even a perfect force couldn't do it. This was the initial stage of controlling wind. Wang! Lu Ming grabbed the end of the spear and shook it. A dozen spear flowers appeared in the sky. Each of these dozens of spear flowers contained the power of wind and fire. Pung! Pung! After a dozen explosions, the wind blades and spear flowers were destroyed. Heavenly dog devouring sun sword. Suddenly, Kai-Go let out a long howl and stabbed out with his long sword. A vision appeared in the sky. A sun appeared and then a big yellow dog appeared. It opened its mouth and swallowed the sun. With the sun in its mouth, it pounced at Lu Ming. A terrifying aura filled the air. "Woo woo, the dog is biting." Lu Ming rushed to the sky and shouted. Kai-Go was so angry that his mouth was crooked. Pung! Bang! Then, Lu Ming took 2 consecutive steps forward. 9 dragons heaven stomp, 2 consecutive steps. The heavens and earth rumbled as a terrifying power erupted like a flood. The yellow-furred dog's body trembled violently. Then, with a final howl, it exploded. Kai-Go's figure involuntarily flew backward. God, what did I just see? Lu Ming actually repelled Kai-Go? How is that possible? It is indeed inconceivable. Lu Ming's battle prowess is truly terrifying. However, Kai-Go has yet to unleash his strongest battle prowess. It's hard to say who will win. Look, Kai-Go is going all out. Boom! At this time, Kai-Go's aura had risen by another level. Rays of red light twined around his body. This was just a secret technique. This was Kai-Go's strongest state. His battle prowess surpassed that of Battle 4. Nestle, the yellow dog transformed. Lu Ming shouted. Everyone was speechless. Kai-Go was so angry that his chest swelled. Die! Heavenly dog devours the sky. Kai-Go roared as a terrifying sword light erupted. It condensed into a heavenly dog and pounced on Lu Ming. This heavenly dog was condensed from sword chi and could destroy everything. I'm too lazy to play with you. Let's end this. True Dragon Strike. Lu Ming unleashed his full strength and stabbed out with his spear. Roar! A dragon's roar resounded as a 2-colored true dragon flew out, emitting an aura of disdain. The 2-colored true dragon collided with the heavenly dog. At this moment, the entire fighting ring shook violently as a terrifying energy swept out in all directions. Retreat! Many people who were close to the fighting ring frantically retreated. Everyone below the half-step king level retreated by 10 miles. Only those half-step kings were able to not retreat. Nestle, this is too strong. Is this the battle prowess of someone below the king level? Ordinary martial artists of the same level would be smashed to pieces in one move. Too strong. This is the strongest genius of the Eastern Tianxian domain. Who is going to win? Everyone's eyes were burning as they stared at the fighting ring. Roar! The 2-colored true dragon suddenly roared as it opened its mouth. The heavenly dog whimpered and collapsed. Then, Kai-Go's body flew out like a cannonball and slid a few miles on the fighting ring. Swish! Lu Ming took a step forward and rushed toward Kai-Go. His long spear was like a cold lightning as it pierced toward Kai-Go. Kai-Go turned pale with fright. He rolled on the ground for more than 10 rounds and avoided Lu Ming's attack. Yellow dog rolling, not bad. Let's see how many moves you can dodge. Lu Ming took a step forward and a violent energy blasted out. Kai-Go screamed as he was sent flying like a chicken, blood spurting out of his mouth. I surrender, I admit defeat. Kai-Go was scared as he roared in horror. Admit defeat? I don't accept. Lu Ming sneered as his eyes were extremely cold. His spear was as cold as ice as it pierced through the void and pierced toward Kai-Go. This time, Kai-Go could not dodge it. Puchi! The long spear pierced through Kai-Go's chest and lifted Kai-Go into the air. I admit defeat, I beg you, let me go, let me go. Kai-Go let out a mournful scream and wailed. He felt that death was so close to him. As long as Lu Ming's true chi erupted, he would be dead. He was scared, scared to death. As long as he thought of his bright future leaving him, he trembled with fear. Let you go? When you wanted to take my Eastern Sky Divine Guards, did you think about letting me go? If I was not strong enough and lost to you, would you let me go? Lu Ming's voice was incomparably cold as he asked two questions in a row. I was wrong. I had eyes but failed to recognize Mount Tai. I had eyes but failed to see. You are the real proud son of heaven, and I am a dog shit. Yes, I am a dog shit. I beg you, let me go. Kai Go begged mournfully. In order to survive, he did not care about anything else. It's too late to say this now. Go on your way. Lu Ming was unmoved and said coldly. This time, he could not let Kai Go go. He wanted to use this thunderous moment to intimidate others and tell them that he, Lu Ming, was not a soft persimmon. On the contrary, he was a murderous weapon, a murderous weapon. No, no. Kai Go screamed crazily and struggled crazily. Buzz. Lu Ming's long spear trembled and his true qi erupted. Kai Go's heart instantly exploded. Kai Go roared and no longer breathed. Hiss, hiss, gasps could be heard from the audience. Lu Ming won. The half-step king Kai Go was killed. Before this, no one would have thought of this outcome. Almost everyone thought that Kai Go would be able to crush Lu Ming and seize the throne of the Eastern Sky Divine Guard this time. They never thought that the result would be the complete opposite. In the end, Lu Ming crushed Kai Go and killed him. Some people who were confident that Lu Ming would be defeated felt their faces burning. This was especially so for Zhong Hao. Previously, he even said that even if it was him, he would have to put in a lot of effort to defeat Kai Go. Lu Ming was definitely not Kai Go's match. But the reality was that Lu Ming crushed Kai Go. This was equivalent to saying that Lu Ming was stronger than him. Chapter 443. Damn it! Zhong Hao roared in his heart. He was extremely unhappy. But when he looked at Lu Ming, his expression was grave. Kai Go was a half-step king. He was 2 levels higher than an ordinary peak 9th stage martial ancestor realm martial artist. At the same time, he was a battle 4 to battle 5 genius. His battle strength was 6 levels higher than an ordinary peak 9th stage martial ancestor realm martial artist. Lu Ming was able to defeat Kai Go with his peak 9th stage martial ancestor realm cultivation. This was simply unbelievable. Could it be that Lu Ming's combat ability had reached the level of a 7 battle talent? Thinking of this, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. Their eyes were filled with disbelief. Battle 7? How was this possible? Was there such a genius in the eastern region of the Tianxian region? Even the previous batch of Empyrean Divine Guards looked at Lu Ming with grave eyes. How could this be? How could this be? In the crowd, Zhang Sheng and Qiu Changkong's faces were ashen. Their eyes were wide open as they couldn't accept this. It had only been a month and Lu Ming had become so powerful. Even if the two of them joined hands, Lu Ming could kill them in one move. No, I must think of a way to get rid of Lu Ming. This guy is too terrifying. If this continues, I will be the one to die. Qiu Changkong's eyes flickered with a sinister light. Whoosh! On the fighting stage, Lu Ming swung his long spear and flung Kai Go's corpse away. At the same time, he sucked Kai Go's storage ring into his hand. As for Kai Go's blood essence, there were too many people present, so Lu Ming didn't devour it. Phew! As Kai Go's corpse fell to the ground, everyone let out a long breath. I announce that Kai Go has failed the challenge. The Eastern Sky Divine Guard is still Lu Ming. The middle-aged man announced. Lu Ming smiled faintly and was about to turn around and leave. Lu Ming, you're not bad. At this moment, a cold voice sounded. Lu Ming stared blankly and looked in the direction of the voice. A young man with a sword-shaped mark between his eyebrows stepped into the air and walked toward the fighting ring. Sheng Wushuang, it's Sheng Wushuang. Why is he walking towards the battle stage? Could it be that he wants to challenge Lu Ming? It can't be. If that's really the case, then there'll be a good show to watch today. This youth was one of the divine guards of the Western Heaven. He was known as the strongest genius of this batch, Sheng Wushuang. Sheng Wushuang stepped onto the stage and stood 100 meters in front of Lu Ming. Lu Ming, you are not bad. Now, you are worthy of being my opponent. Sheng Wushuang had a jade-like appearance and was quite handsome. He stood with his hands behind his back, exuding a domineering aura. A large group of young women looked at Sheng Wushuang with shining eyes. Oh. Lu Ming was a little surprised. Oh. To be honest, he had never heard of Sheng Wushuang before. However, you are only worthy of being my opponent now. You may not be in the future. Lu Ming, let me tell you, you are on the wrong path. Sheng Wushuang continued. He stood with his hands behind his back like an elder giving advice to a junior. What? Lu Ming was stunned. Is there something wrong with this guy's head? He thinks too highly of himself. How can he say that I am on the wrong path? The others were stunned. Only a few of them showed a thoughtful expression. Haven't you realized it yourself? You have taken an unconventional path and comprehended two forces at the same time. Although it will greatly increase your battle strength, a person's energy is limited. It takes a lifetime to comprehend one force and one essence of heaven and earth. However, you have comprehended two forces at the same time. In the short term, you seem to be strong, but in fact, it is an extremely foolish action. In the future, even if you can break through to the martial king realm, your achievements will be limited. Therefore, I said that you can be my opponent now, but in the future, the gap between you and me will grow bigger and bigger. You will never be able to keep up with my footsteps. Sheng Wushuang continued. His words were full of confidence. Yes, Sheng Wushuang is right. Comprehending two forces will greatly increase your strength in the short term, but in the future, it will greatly affect your cultivation. The people around suddenly realized that Sheng Wushuang's words made sense. However, Lu Ming was speechless. Moreover, Sheng Wushuang's attitude really annoyed Lu Ming. Therefore, Lu Ming glanced at him indifferently and said, "Who do you think you are? You have your own path and I have mine. There is no need to talk to you. Moreover, with your current strength, it will be a matter of minutes to surpass you." Lu Ming casually waved his hand. You don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. You have gone astray and still want to surpass me. What a joke. I am kind enough to guide you, but you don't appreciate it. Fine, I will let you fend for yourself. Sheng Wushuang coldly snorted. With his hands behind his back, he turned around and walked away. This guy is crazy. Who does he think he is? Acting like he is the number one in the world. What a joke. Lu Ming muttered, then soared into the sky and left. Of course, this battle inevitably became a topic of discussion. However, no one dared to look down on Lu Ming. Lu Ming had used his strength to prove that he deserved the title of Eastern Sky Divine Guard. Moreover, Sheng Wushuang's words had also spread. The majority of people believed that Sheng Wushuang was right. A person comprehending two forces at the same time had limited energy. If Lu Ming didn't mend his ways, his future achievements would definitely be limited. After Lu Ming returned to the Eastern Sky Courtyard, he continued to comprehend the forces of wind and fire. He naturally couldn't give up on cultivating the forces of wind and fire just because of Sheng Wushuang's words. Ever since he comprehended the forces of wind and fire and fused them together, the forces of wind and fire had helped Lu Ming greatly. Moreover, the three ultimate skills of the Dragon God could not be unleashed by a single force or concept. Therefore, he had to cultivate the forces of wind and fire together. Moreover, Lu Ming had another ambition. He wanted to comprehend the force of lightning and fuse the three to cultivate the three unique skills of the dragon god to the highest level. Time slowly passed. On another mountain peak, in one of the courtyards, Qiu Changkong and a purple-robed youth were sitting opposite each other. Damn it, damn it. How could that bastard Lu Ming be so strong? How could his cultivation increase so quickly? Damn it! Qiu Changkong roared furiously. Junior brother, don't be impatient. In my opinion, Lu Ming must have had some fortuitous encounter or some treasure on him. The purple-robed youth took a sip of wine and smiled faintly. If Lu Ming was here, he would definitely recognize this youth as the one who had sent the invitation to the Blazing Sun Empire. Senior brother, what should we do now? Why don't we ask Master to find a reason to kill Lu Ming? Qiu Changkong's eyes flickered with a cold light. Fool! The young man in purple scolded, Master, although you are the palace master of the Thunder Palace, one of the 9 great palaces, Lu Ming is the Eastern Sky Divine Guard this time and has attracted the attention of the other palace masters. If Master takes action and deals with Lu Ming, it will definitely arouse the dissatisfaction of the palace masters and even alarm the palace master. At that time, it will be difficult for Master to explain himself and he will be punished. We can't just watch Lu Ming continue to grow. I'm afraid that once Lu Ming grows, it'll be hard to suppress him. Chapter 444. Junior brother is right. We can't let Lu Ming live. Master can't make a move, but we can. However, I'm not 100% confident that I'll succeed. The purple-clad young man pondered. What should we do then? Should we ask the other senior brothers? Qiu Changkong asked. As for the other 2 senior brothers, one is traveling outside while the other is in seclusion. Junior brother, don't worry. My cultivation has already reached perfection and I'll enter seclusion to break through to the Martial King realm soon. Once I break through to the Martial King realm, I'll be able to kill Lu Ming with a flip of my hand. The purple-clad young man said with a smile. Senior brother, are you going to break through to the Martial King realm? Qiu Changkong was overjoyed. That's right. I've been stuck at the half-step king realm for a few years and have reached my limit. It's time for me to break through to the Martial King realm. The purple-clad young man said. Senior brother, how confident are you? 80%. The purple-clad young man was very confident. Haha, that's great. We'll let Lu Ming live a little longer. Once you break through to the Martial King realm, it'll be Lu Ming's death. Qiu Changkong was overjoyed. No matter how strong Lu Ming was, he wouldn't be a match for a Martial King. As long as the purple-clad young man broke through to the Martial King realm and came out of seclusion, he could find a reason to challenge Lu Ming and Lu Ming would be dead. Lu Ming, you can be arrogant, but you won't be able to be arrogant for long. Qiu Changkong sneered. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. Lu Ming was comprehending the force of wind and fire every day. However, his progress was minimal. After one's force reached perfection, it was extremely difficult to comprehend a trace of intent from it. Many people were stuck at this step for their entire lives, unable to make any progress. Today, the Palace Master of the Wind Palace will give a lecture on the force of wind and intent of wind. I can't miss it. Lu Ming stood up, left the courtyard, and flew towards the Palace of Wind. The palace masters of the 9 palaces of the Emperor Sky Divine Palace would give lectures on the related force and intent every once in a while. This would attract a large number of Tian Divine Guards to attend the lecture. When Lu Ming arrived at the entrance of the Palace of Wind, he discovered that there were also figures flying over from other directions. No one checked the entrance. Those who wanted to go in to listen to the lecture could just go in directly. Lu Ming walked into the Palace of Wind and arrived at a large hall. The main hall was extremely spacious, and the floor of the main hall was filled with praying mats. There were at least 10,000 of them. At this moment, there were already over 1,000 people sitting cross-legged on futons. Lu Ming's entrance attracted a lot of attention. Lu Ming ignored him. He casually found a futon and sat down. He closed his eyes and waited. As time passed, the number of people increased. Soon, the number of people exceeded 2,000. Most of them were Tian Divine Guards who had just joined this year, and some of them were from the previous batch. Hall Master Feng is here. Someone whispered. Lu Ming opened his eyes and saw an old man in a green robe with a beautiful beard walking over. The old man looked to be in his 60s, and he had a faint smile on his face. On his body, there was not the slightest trace of true essence fluctuation or powerful aura. He was just like an ordinary person. However, no one dared to look down on him or be disrespectful. It was said that the 9 Hall Masters were all Great Perfection Kings. Furthermore, they were not ordinary Great Perfection Kings. Their strength was extremely terrifying. Greetings, Hall Master Feng. Over 2,000 people stood up and bowed. No need for formalities. Please take a seat. Hall Master Feng smiled and waved his hand. Everyone took their seats. Hall Master Feng also sat cross-legged on the high platform above the main hall. Today, everyone who has come is below the martial king realm and has comprehended the force of wind. Today, I will talk in detail about how to comprehend a trace of the intent of wind from the force of wind. Then, with this trace of the intent of wind, how to condense the intent rune and go through the heavenly tribulation to reach the martial king realm. Hall Master Feng's voice rang out. Everyone's spirits were lifted. They had come here to listen to this. If you want to know all this, you must first understand what force is. What is intent? Hall Master Feng's voice continued, force is actually a type of intent of heaven and earth. However, it is a very shallow borrowing of the intent of heaven and earth. This is because every attribute has force. For example, when water is gentle, it can nourish all living things. This is also a type of force of water. When it is violent, it can destroy the earth. This is also a type of force of water. For example, when it is gentle, it can be a gentle breeze. When it is violent, it can tear all living things apart. This is the force of wind. When you comprehend force, you are only borrowing the intent of heaven and earth. It is commonly known as borrowing force to increase your offensive and defensive power. Speaking up to this point, a powerful force exploded from Hall Master Feng's body. His aura instantly became like an immemorial divine mountain, majestic, heavy, and unapproachable. In the next instant, his aura disappeared without a trace. However, the intent of heaven and earth is completely different from force. The intent of heaven and earth is control. By controlling an attribute, one can use this attribute to transform it into various mysterious and unfathomable methods. Speaking up to this point, Hall Master Feng suddenly opened his palm. In his palm, a tornado was rapidly rotating. Although the tornado was small, Lu Ming could hear a terrifying whistling sound. Lu Ming did not doubt that if Hall Master Feng threw out this tornado, it would definitely be able to tear a mountain apart. Following this, Hall Master Feng moved his hand and the tornado disappeared. A wind blade appeared on his finger. The wind blade was like a blade that sliced through space, causing the space to tremble like water ripples. This showed how terrifying this wind blade was. Controlling an attribute naturally has a difference in strength. According to the degree of control, the intent of heaven and earth is also divided into many levels. Generally speaking, a martial king can only control a level 1 intent of heaven and earth. Hall Master Feng endlessly explained the force of wind and the intent of wind. Sometimes, he would even personally demonstrate it. Lu Ming listened attentively, afraid that he would miss a single word or action. All along, Lu Ming had relied on his own comprehension and bitter cultivation. Since when did such an expert explain and demonstrate in front of him? At this moment, Lu Ming's eyes lit up as he listened. Many questions that had troubled Lu Ming for a long time were being answered one by one. Lu Ming felt more relaxed and his mind more nimble. He felt extremely carefree. He felt that his understanding of the force of wind had increased by a large margin. Once Hall Master Feng started speaking, he went on for 3 hours. Alright, today's explanation ends here. Go back and comprehend it well. You can all disperse. Hall Master Feng said. Many people revealed reluctant expressions. They simply wanted to continue and wanted to hear more. Lu Ming was the same. At this moment, Hall Master Feng's gaze swept over Lu Ming and said, Lu Ming, wait a moment. Lu Ming was slightly stunned. He did not know why Hall Master Feng called out to him. Chapter 445. I've heard that most of the 4 heavens' divine guards are chosen by the 9 Hall Masters as their core disciples. Could it be that Hall Master Feng has taken a fancy to Lu Ming and wants to recruit him as his disciple? That's possible. Lu Ming has such a cultivation and battle strength at such a young age. It's normal for him to be chosen by Hall Master Feng. I'm so jealous. How great would it be if I had such a master? Stop dreaming, let's go. The surrounding people discussed in low voices as they speculated. Soon, the crowd dispersed, leaving only Lu Ming and Hall Master Feng. Lu Ming came before Hall Master Feng and brought his fists together. May I know why Hall Master has asked Lu Ming to stay? Take a seat first. Hall Master Feng said with a smile as he raised his hand. Lu Ming nodded and sat down on a futon beside Hall Master Feng. Hehe, Lu Ming, are you 20 years old? Hall Master Feng asked. Not yet 20 years old, not yet. Lu Ming replied. It's rare to have such a cultivation and battle strength at the age of 20. Your future is limitless. Hall Master Feng exclaimed. Lu Ming's expression changed slightly, but he did not reply. I've heard about your battle with Kai Go and Sheng Wushuang's words a few days ago. Although Sheng Wushuang's words are too absolute, they are not without reason. A person's energy is limited. Cultivating too intense at the same time will increase your battle strength in a short period of time, but in the future, especially after reaching the martial emperor realm, the comprehension of the intents of the heavens and earth will be crucial. Without a breakthrough in your intents, it will be difficult for your cultivation to have a breakthrough, which will greatly affect your cultivation. Lu Ming, I'm interested in recruiting you as my disciple, as long as you promise to focus on cultivating the wind intent. Hall Master Feng said in one breath as he looked at Lu Ming with a hint of anticipation. Lu Ming frowned slightly. To be honest, he was quite interested in becoming Hall Master Feng's disciple. This way, he would be able to avoid many detours in his comprehension of the wind intent. But to ask him to give up on cultivating the power of fire, this was something he absolutely could not do. The force of fire was the force that he had comprehended the earliest, and it was not something that he could give up just because he wanted to. After pondering for a moment, Lu Ming cupped his fists and said, Lu Ming thanks Hall Master Feng for his kindness. However, Lu Ming has still decided to cultivate both wind and fire. I will not give up on any of them. I'm afraid I will have to disappoint Hall Master Feng. This was equivalent to rejecting Hall Master Feng. You. Hall Master Feng's expression changed as he said, Lu Ming, I'm doing this for your own good. Please reconsider. Thank you, Hall Master Feng. I have made up my mind. Lu Ming said. You are really stubborn. Go quickly. Otherwise, this old man will feel annoyed just by looking at you. Palace Master Feng waved his hand with an exasperated expression. Lu Ming stood up, bowed, and strode away. Sigh, I'm still too young and too confident in myself. Later on, when I suffer and hit a wall, I only know how to regret it. Hall Master Feng sighed. After Lu Ming returned to the courtyard, he sat down cross-legged. In his mind, the content of Hall Master Feng's explanation kept flashing, and he kept verifying it with what he had comprehended. Lu Ming's comprehension of wind deepened. However, he still had a long way to go before he could comprehend a trace of wind concept. After that, Lu Ming spent another 1,000 supreme-grade spiritual crystals to enter the Tao Enlightenment Palace to cultivate for 10 days. However, he still could not touch the threshold of concept. It seems that I can only use profound crystals. Lu Ming pondered. In the Dongming ancient battlefield, Lu Ming had obtained a total of 29 profound crystals. Among them, there were 4 of the wind attribute, 5 of the fire attribute, and 3 of the thunder attribute. The rest were of other attributes, such as the metal attribute and the water attribute. Lu Ming pondered for a moment before going to the mystical treasure house to exchange all the other attribute profound crystals for wind attribute profound crystals. Of course, the exchange fee was 1,000 supreme-grade spiritual crystals. Lu Ming only had 45,000 supreme-grade spiritual crystals left. Lu Ming had a total of 21 wind attribute profound crystals. As for the fire attribute and thunder attribute profound crystals, Lu Ming did not exchange them because he would definitely need them later. In the courtyard of the Eastern Sky Courtyard, Lu Ming sat cross-legged, and a blue crystal appeared in his hand. Crack! Lu Ming squeezed the crystal hard, and it shattered. Immediately, a mysterious wind concept spread out and enveloped Lu Ming. This wind concept was actually in the form of a thread, but it was a few hundred times thinner than a strand of hair. However, when Lu Ming comprehended it, he felt that it was many times clearer than when he was in the Tao Enlightenment Palace. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. He used all his strength to capture the wind concept around him and began to comprehend it. As expected of a profound crystal, a treasure that even martial kings would drool over. Lu Ming's comprehension of the wind concept had greatly increased. Between heaven and earth, strands of the concept of heaven and earth were absorbed by Lu Ming, entering Lu Ming's body. Profound crystals were the physical embodiment of the concept of heaven and earth, condensed over countless years. Every time he absorbed a strand, it would increase his comprehension of the wind concept. However, even more strands of concept dissipated in the air. There was simply no time to absorb them. If this scene was seen by others, they would probably vomit blood from jealousy. Waste, this was a complete waste. Most of the concept strands had dissipated from a single profound crystal. This was simply a waste of heavenly treasures. It should be known that even for half-step kings, very few of them would use profound crystals to cultivate. This was because it was too wasteful. A single profound crystal would cost at least 1,000 supreme-grade spiritual crystals. Only martial kings who used profound crystals to cultivate would not waste them. They would be able to absorb all the concept strands. However, Lu Ming did not care so much. In his opinion, if he did not convert the resources into strength as soon as possible, it would be even more wasteful if he did not use them. Only by increasing his strength would he be able to obtain more resources and treasures. An hour later, the concept strands of a profound crystal had completely dissipated. Again, Lu Ming took out another piece of wind attribute profound meaning crystal and crushed it into pieces. Kacha. Kacha. Following this, a kacha sound would resound in Lu Ming's courtyard every hour. 12 hours later, Lu Ming had used up 12 wind attribute profound meaning crystals consecutively. At this moment, Lu Ming's eyes became brighter and brighter. Rings of cyan energy revolved around his body. The wind aura around Lu Ming's body was raised to the extreme. Right at this moment, swish! Lu Ming waved his hand, and a cyan wind blade flew out from his fingers, cutting a stone block in two. Wind concept, I've finally comprehended a strand of the wind concept. Lu Ming revealed an ecstatic expression. From aura to concept, the difference between aura and concept was like the difference between heaven and earth. This was an essential difference, the difference between rotten wood and steel. Comprehending a strand of concept meant that Lu Ming was already half a step into the realm of king. Lu Ming's cultivation had already reached the peak of martial ancestor realm. Lu Ming could now be considered a true half-step king. Chapter 446. Although he had only comprehended a trace of the concept of heaven and earth and was still far from condensing concept runes, this was already a huge improvement. There are still 9 wind profound crystals left. I might as well use them all to deepen my understanding of the concept of wind. With a thought, Lu Ming took out more wind profound crystals, crushed them, and started cultivating. This time, Lu Ming absorbed even more profound threads. The amount he absorbed was several times more than before. After comprehending a trace of the concept of heaven and earth, his absorption of the profound crystal's concept threads became stronger. Lu Ming's understanding of the concept of wind also gradually deepened. Only when the last 9 wind profound crystals were used up did Lu Ming end his cultivation. Now, I can put aside the concept of wind for a while and start comprehending the concept of fire. Also, I have to find time to comprehend the force of thunder. In 2 days, the Fire Palace Master will give a lecture. I can't miss it. Lu Ming pondered and then continued cultivating. 2 days passed in the blink of an eye. Lu Ming went to the Fire Palace. Just like the previous Wind Palace, there were many people, close to 2,000. The layout of the Fire Palace was very similar to the Wind Palace. The main hall was filled with praying mats. Lu Ming walked in and casually found a praying mat to sit on. That's Lu Ming. He really came to the Fire Palace. He really wants to cultivate both wind and fire. He's overestimating himself. I heard that the Wind Palace Master wanted to take him in as a disciple. The condition was that he had to specialize in the concept of wind. He actually rejected it. I also heard about this. He's too arrogant. Just because he has some achievements, he's too arrogant. He doesn't even listen to the Palace Master's opinion. I think that Sheng Wushuang is right. The distance between him and Sheng Wushuang will only grow further and further in the future. The other Empyrean divine guards in the surroundings glanced at Lu Ming from time to time, whispering and discussing in low voices. After hearing this, Lu Ming shook his head and couldn't be bothered with them. Walk your own path and let others speak for you. He firmly believed that he would use practical actions to shut these people up. Soon, the Fire Hall Master arrived. The Fire Hall Master was a tall and burly old man. He wore a fiery red long robe and had a mighty aura. As soon as he arrived, he glanced around, and his gaze lingered on Lu Ming for a moment. Without saying anything, he began to explain. Lu Ming listened attentively. 3 hours later, the lecture ended. Lu Ming felt that he had learned a lot. After returning to the courtyard, Lu Ming began to cultivate non-stop. On the second day, Lu Ming used up all 5 fire attribute Upanishad crystals. However, it was a pity that it was still lacking. Lu Ming did not comprehend a trace of the concept of fire. I still have one more chance to enter the 100 deities slope. I might as well put aside the concept of wind and fire for now and start comprehending the power of thunder. When the power of thunder reaches a certain level, I will enter the 100 deities slope. Only then will I be able to make the best use of this precious slot. Furthermore, the Thunder Hall Master is going to give a lecture tomorrow. I might as well go and listen. Lu Ming pondered. On the second day, Lu Ming headed for the Thunder Hall. When Lu Ming entered the Thunder Hall, he immediately caused a commotion. That is Lu Ming. What is he doing here? Could it be that he wants to comprehend the power of thunder? Crazy, I think he is crazy. Not to mention cultivating the wind and fire attributes at the same time, he actually wants to comprehend the power of thunder. He is really indulging in fantasy. With how stubborn he is, I estimate that he will not even be able to break through to Martial King. The others discussed excitedly. Brother Lu, you've really exceeded my expectations. A figure sat down beside Lu Ming. Brother Xiao. Lu Ming said. This young man was none other than Xiao Haoyu, who had been saved by Lu Ming at the Dark Underworld ancient battlefield. Brother Lu, sigh, I don't know what to say. Xiao Haoyu let out a sigh. Lu Ming let out a faint smile. He was too lazy to care about what the others were saying, and waited in silence. After a while, an old man wearing a blue robe arrived at the top of the hall and sat down with his legs crossed. Following this, his eyes scanned the surroundings at lightning speed. When his gaze landed on Lu Ming's figure, he was slightly surprised. Following this, a cold flicker could be seen as he snapped, Lu Ming, what are you doing here at the Thunder Hall? Get out of here. The entire place fell silent. Lu Ming frowned his eyebrows. What was wrong with this Thunder Hall master? Even if he didn't agree with Lu Ming cultivating the concept of thunder, he shouldn't have scolded him and asked him to get out of here. Lu Ming stood up and cupped his fists, Thunder Hall master, I am only here to listen to your lecture. There is no rule in the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace that forbids me from listening to your lecture. Listen to your lecture? What a joke. Who doesn't know that you are arrogant and overconfident, wanting to cultivate the wind and fire concepts at the same time? What's even more ridiculous is that you came to the Thunder Hall to listen to the concept of thunder. What? You want to comprehend the concept of thunder? What a joke. My Thunder Hall doesn't welcome an arrogant person like you. The Thunder Hall master waved his sleeves and scolded loudly. Lu Ming's frown deepened. Lu Ming, I heard that the Thunder Hall master is Qiu Chankong's master. Xiao Haoyu's soft voice sounded in his ears. Lu Ming raised his eyebrows and came to a realization. Lu Ming finally knew who the mysterious master behind Qiu Chankong, the big shot of the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace, was. It was actually one of the 9 Hall Masters, the Thunder Hall Master. No wonder the Thunder Hall Master scolded Lu Ming loudly when he saw him. At first, Lu Ming felt that it was strange. But now, everything made sense. Huh. Lu Ming's face turned cold as he said, Thunder Hall Master, am I being arrogant and overconfident? It doesn't seem to have anything to do with how many concepts I cultivate. Furthermore, there are plenty of experts who cultivate a few concepts and become unhindered in the world. What makes you think that I can't do it? Impudent. What kind of attitude is this? How dare you speak to this old man like this? The Thunder Hall Master scolded coldly and stood up abruptly. An unbelievably powerful aura burst out from him. It was as deep as the sea and unfathomable. Sizzle, roar. Lu Ming suddenly let out a long roar and activated his 9 dragons bloodline. Dragon roars echoed out as a spear light burst out to resist this aura. However, Lu Ming felt as if there was an immemorial mountain weighing billions of jin pressing down on his head. The spear light instantly collapsed, and the terrifying pressure pressed down on Lu Ming's body. Creak, there seemed to be moaning sounds coming from Lu Ming's body and his bones were creaking. Bang! Lu Ming almost knelt down. He roared and exerted force on his waist. Using both hands to support himself, he barely managed to not kneel down. Lu Ming, who the hell do you think you are? How dare you compare yourself with those peerless experts of the world? Those experts cultivate a few concepts because they have the talent. Do you have it? The Thunder Hall Master scolded coldly. I already said that it is my own business if I want to cultivate a few concepts. It has nothing to do with you. Old man, your disciple Qiu Chankong was defeated by me. Don't you feel embarrassed? As the Thunder Hall Master, you actually attacked me because of your disciples' incompetence. You are bullying the weak. Aren't you ashamed? I will report this matter to the Palace Lord. Chapter 447. Lu Ming hollered. He was going all out. Furthermore, with so many people watching, Xiaofan did not believe that the Thunder Palace Master would dare to do anything to him. How audacious! Impudent! The Thunder Palace Master roared furiously, his aura flourishing. Lu Ming did his best to resist the Thunder Palace Master's aura. He roared, "Old man, do you think that the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace is yours? The Emperor Heaven Divine Palace has the rules set by Martial Monarch De. I did not violate any of the rules. You are abusing your power for personal gain, bullying the weak. Are you not putting Martial Monarch De in your eyes? Furthermore, in the future, as long as anyone offends your disciples or you find unpleasing to the eye, you can bully them and punish them as you wish?" Lu Ming shouted. He simply put two big hats on the Palace Master of Thunder's head. The moment Xiaofan said this, the 2,000 people present looked at the Thunder Palace Master with strange expressions. Lu Ming was not wrong. He did not violate any rules. How many states he cultivated was his own business. In fact, the Thunder Palace Master did not even have the authority to chase Lu Ming away. This was because every Emperor Heaven Divine Guard had the right to attend lectures in the 9 palaces. This was a rule set by Martial Monarch De, and the 9 palace masters could not violate it. Little bastard! The Thunder Palace Master's expression turned gloomy. Lu Ming was not an ordinary Emperor Heaven Divine Guard but an Eastern Sky Divine Guard. He had long since received the attention of the other Palace Masters and even the Palace Masters. The Thunder Palace Master did not dare to do anything to Lu Ming in public. Otherwise, he would not be able to explain himself. Humph! Stubborn and arrogant. If you do not repent, Half-Step King is your limit. Now, scram out of the Thunder Palace for this old man. The Thunder Palace Master retracted his aura and berated. Lu Ming straightened his body and wiped away the blood at the corner of his mouth. He had already been injured earlier. I will remember today's humiliation. One day, I will take it back tenfold. Lu Ming's eyes lit up as he shouted. Then, he turned around and left with large strides. The others were startled. Lu Ming was too bold. He actually dared to speak to the Thunder Palace Master like that. The Thunder Palace Master's eyes flashed with killing intent. In the end, he did not attack. He watched as Lu Ming left. Lu Ming, this kid, has only achieved a little, but he has been blinded by this little achievement in front of him. He has overestimated himself. Such a person will never achieve anything great in his lifetime. You must not learn from him. After Lu Ming left, Temple Master Lei said to the others. Yes. Sparse sounds could be heard. This made the Thunder Palace Master quite displeased. He coldly harumphed and began to lecture. Lu Ming walked out of the Thunder Palace. He turned around and looked at the Thunder Palace, his fists tightly clenched together. Thunder Palace Master, you are stronger than me now, and I can tolerate it. But sooner or later, I will make you kneel before me, kowtow, and admit your mistakes. Furthermore, I believe that day won't be too far away. Lu Ming's eyes flashed with murderous intent as he strode away. Now, he needed to quickly cultivate the fire force to the concept of fire. After that, he would put all his effort into cultivating the lightning force. He needed to reach the Martial King realm as soon as possible. Only after reaching the Martial King realm would he have the right to speak. Those below the Martial King realm were all ants. Without strength, one could only be bullied by others. Only with strength could one control one's own fate. Lu Ming had long since understood this principle, and he had been practicing it. After returning to the eastern sky courtyard, Lu Ming sat down cross-legged. Since I can't listen to the lecture, I'll forcefully use the profound crystal to comprehend the lightning force first. Lu Ming's eyes flashed with madness. Soon after, he took out a lightning profound crystal and squeezed it. Kacha! The Thunder Upanishad crystal exploded, releasing wisps of intent domain. However, Lu Ming had yet to comprehend the power of thunder. There were very few strands of concept that he could absorb. It could be said that an entire profound meaning crystal was purely a waste. However, the profound crystal was no small matter. It was a treasure that even kings would drool over. Even if he could only absorb a strand, it would be of great help to Lu Ming. Lu Ming closed his eyes and immersed himself in comprehending the lightning force. Lightning is incomparably terrifying. It represents extreme speed and destructive power. It even represents the might of the heavens. Under the heavenly lightning, all living things are dormant. Various thoughts flashed through Lu Ming's mind as he continued to comprehend. In the blink of an eye, 2 hours passed. Lu Ming opened his eyes. Just a bit more. Following this, Lu Ming took out a second lightning profound crystal and crushed it without hesitation. This time, he absorbed a little more intent than last time. An hour later. Whoosh! Lu Ming suddenly opened his eyes. 2 bolts of lightning shot out from his eyes. At the same time, a surge of intent erupted from his body. Lightning force. He had comprehended the basics of lightning force. I've finally comprehended the basics of lightning force. Then let's go all out and use up the last lightning profound crystal. Subsequently, Lu Ming used up the third thunder attribute profundity crystal. At this point, the 29 profound crystals he had obtained from the Dark East ancient battlefield had all been used up by Lu Ming. This time, he had absorbed even more intent, and Lu Ming's comprehension of lightning force had greatly increased. After 2 hours, Lu Ming opened his eyes. His lightning force had reached minor completion. He had used 3 thunder attribute profound crystals. The total value was definitely more than 3 billion low-grade spirit crystals. He had used such a terrifying amount of resources to cultivate the thunder force to the initial success stage. If others were to know about this, they might vomit blood and scold Lu Ming for being a prodigal. Now, I've comprehended a trace of wind intent. Originally, I could have used the wind intent to refine my true qi and slowly convert it into true yuan. However, with the thickness of my true qi, I don't know how long it would take to refine my true yuan by relying on a single intent. I should wait until I've comprehended a trace of fire and lightning intent. Only by combining the 3 will I be able to refine my true yuan faster. Moreover, before you temper your true essence, you have to try your best to cultivate the true battle dragon art to the highest level of the 9th level. Otherwise, after the true qi is transformed into true essence, if you want to improve the true battle dragon art, it will be at least 100 times more difficult than now. Lu Ming analyzed his own cultivation level and the direction that he should take next. Once the true dragon battle art converted true qi into true yuan, the difficulty of improving it would be extremely terrifying. Therefore, Lu Ming planned to try his best to improve the true dragon battle art to the 9th level before his true qi was converted into true yuan. Coincidentally, he had some dragon blood flowers and a dragon bone. Without further ado, Lu Ming waved his hand and dragon blood flowers appeared. Swallow. Lu Ming directly picked up a dragon blood flower and swallowed it. He started to circulate the true dragon battle art and cultivated it with all his might. Lu Ming refined the dragon blood flowers one after another. Lu Ming's true dragon battle art was also rapidly improving. 2 days later, all the dragon blood flowers were refined by Lu Ming. Then, Lu Ming took out the dragon bone. According to his speculation, it should be the dragon finger bone that he had obtained from the dragon cave. Although countless years had passed, it still contained a rich essence. Lu Ming used the 9 dragons' bloodline and started to refine the dragon bone with all his might. Chapter 448. As for the dragon bone, it became smaller and smaller under the devouring of the 9 dragons' bloodline. This refinement took 7 days. Roar! Suddenly, the roar of a dragon pierced through the clouds and shook the entire mountain peak. Many figures were alarmed and flew into the sky to look at the mountain peak. That's the East Sky Courtyard. It's Lu Ming. What the hell is he doing now? He's probably cultivating some kind of secret technique. The further one goes on the path of martial arts, the more important the concept of heaven and earth is. He only knows how to cultivate some unorthodox secret techniques. His combat strength has increased, but what's the use of that? That's right, his path is wrong. There's no need to pay attention to him. Let's go. After a round of discussion, these people could not be bothered with him and returned to their respective courtyards. At this moment, Lu Ming's cultivation had reached a critical moment. The true qi in his body was condensed to the extreme and was completely formed by true dragons. True dragons swam in his meridians. Then, another dragon roar came from the vortex in his dantian. At this moment, the vortex in his dantian had undergone a fundamental change. Originally, the vortex was only formed by pure true qi, but now it had become 2 true dragons. The 2 true dragons circled each other and spun continuously. On the side, there were constantly small true dragons flying in and out. True Dragon Battle Technique, 9th level, Breakthrough. Lu Ming's eyes shone brightly. After more than 10 days of cultivation, he had completely refined the dragon blood flower and dragon bone. The True Dragon Battle Technique had broken through 2 levels, from the 7th level to the 9th level. Lu Ming's strength skyrocketed once again. Roar! At this moment, a true dragon flew out of his dantian and rushed into his consciousness. Boom! There was a rumbling explosion in his consciousness and a message appeared in Lu Ming's mind. True Dragon Battle Technique, Greater Mastery of the Foundation Establishment Section. This was a message that suddenly appeared in Lu Ming's mind. What does that mean? Greater Mastery of the Foundation Establishment Section? Could it be that the True Dragon Battle Technique is divided into many sections and what I'm cultivating now is only the Foundation Establishment Section? Lu Ming was in a daze, his mind full of questions. Perhaps, it's very likely. After all, Supreme Nine Yang was the one who had brought the true battle dragon art out of the 9 dragon ruins. Perhaps he had only brought a part of it out and not the whole thing. If that's the case, there are other chapters of the true battle dragon incantation. If the Foundation Establishment chapter alone can allow one to cultivate 10 times the Jinqi, how terrifying would the other chapters be? Lu Ming's mind was filled with thoughts. As he thought about it, his heart was filled with anticipation. Looks like I'll have to visit the 9 dragons' ancient ruins if I have the chance. Lu Ming secretly decided. It could be said that his current achievements were inseparable from the 9 dragons. The first bloodline was awakened by a drop of blood essence from the 9 dragons. The true battle dragon art and 9 dragons' heaven stomping steps that he cultivated were both brought out from the 9 dragons' ruins by Supreme 9 Sons. Lu Ming was bound to have a trip to the 9 dragons' remains. Now that I've mastered the true dragon battle art, it's time to take a look at the 100 Gods slope. Lu Ming's eyes flickered. Immediately after, Lu Ming left the East Sky Courtyard and arrived at the plaza where he had first entered. He took out the Empyrean Divine Guard token and injected his Jinqi. Instantly, inscriptions appeared and a small whirlpool appeared in the air. Without any hesitation, Lu Ming stepped into it. In the next moment, Lu Ming realized that he was already in the Myriad Star City, under the huge pavilion of the Empyrean Divine Palace. Swish! Lu Ming's figure moved and flew towards the west. The 100-God Slope was over 300,000 miles west of the Myriad Star City. With Lu Ming's current cultivation, it would only take him a few hours to travel 300,000 miles. 2 hours later, a region shrouded in gray fog appeared before Lu Ming's eyes. Looking from afar, this region seemed to be endless and had no end. It was very vast. The 100-God Slope was very strange. It was said that tens of thousands of years ago, the 100-God Slope was not called the 100-God Slope but something else. Suddenly, one day, a crack appeared in the sky. Over 100 corpses fell from the crack. These corpses were of various races. There were human-shaped corpses and those of other races. Some of the corpses were not big, while others were as big as mountains. According to records, there were people who saw the corpses of divine beasts like true dragons and phoenixes falling down. Every corpse had an overwhelming aura. They were unimaginable existences. Hence, people called it the 100-God Slope. After those corpses fell, the region of the 100-God Slope changed. The entire region was filled with killing intent and baleful aura. No one could enter this region. No matter how strong an expert was, if they entered that region, their body would be torn apart by the strong killing intent and their soul would be destroyed. Only after 10,000 years did a change occur. Someone discovered that those below Martial King could enter. However, those above Martial King were still unable to enter. It remained so until now. Those above Martial King would die if they entered. Once, there were even martial monarchs who barged in but never came out. However, those below Martial King would be fine if they entered. They could even obtain supreme fortuitous encounters. Inside, not only would one be able to comprehend the state of heaven and earth, one could even obtain some supreme treasures. There were even people who obtained the inheritance of supreme existences and soared to the sky, becoming a peak expert of the continent. There was a period of time when the 100-God Slope became the focus of the various factions of the divine desolate continent. However, as time passed, more and more people entered. The treasures and inheritances inside were almost all taken away. Hence, the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace was able to occupy it. Otherwise, the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace alone might not be able to take over such an important place. Even now, the 100-God Slope was still the most important holy land of the Tianxian region's eastern branch palace. Very few people could enter. Every year, not many people could enter. Lu Ming slowly approached the 100-God Slope. Who is it? This is a forbidden land of my Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace. Trespassers will be killed without mercy. A loud shout resounded. An aura soared into the sky like smoke. It was incomparably horrifying. A tall middle-aged man suddenly appeared not far from Lu Ming. This was definitely a king. He was incomparably strong. The 100-God Slope was the holy land of the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace. It was normal for there to be powerful existences guarding it. Lu Ming was certain that there was definitely more than one powerful figure around the 100-God Slope. Most likely, there were quite a number of powerful figures. Senior, I am the new Eastern Sky Divine Guard of the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace. This is my Divine Guard token. Lu Ming cupped his fists. Then, he took out the Divine Guard token and handed it to the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man took a look at it and his expression relaxed. He revealed a faint smile and said, "You are indeed an Eastern Sky Divine Guard. You have one chance to enter the 100-God Slope. Go on in. However, you can only stay there for 3 months. After 3 months, you must come out. Otherwise, there will be danger." As he spoke, he returned the Divine Guard token to Lu Ming. "Many thanks, Senior. I will definitely come out within 3 months." Chapter 449. When Lu Ming flew into the area filled with black fog, he suddenly felt a huge force acting on his body. Lu Ming's expression changed. He slowly descended and landed on the ground. "I can't fly at the 100 Gods slope," Lu Ming muttered. Then, he looked around. It was strange. Everything was normal outside. However, when he flew into the area filled with gray fog, not only could he not fly, even the surrounding environment had changed. Looking around, it was a gray desert. Yes, it was a desert. Not a single blade of grass could be seen. Without hesitation, Lu Ming dashed forward in big strides. However, not long after, Lu Ming's expression changed again. That was because he felt that his cultivation was being suppressed and it kept decreasing. Not long after, his cultivation had been suppressed to the middle stage of Martial Ancestor Realm 9. It's one thing to hear rumors, but it's another thing to experience it for yourself. Watching my cultivation constantly drop, this feeling is really uncomfortable. Lu Ming smiled bitterly. Then, he ignored it and continued to run forward. According to the experience of the predecessors, the deeper one went into the 100 Gods slope, the more opportunities one would obtain. 2 hours later, Lu Ming's cultivation had been completely suppressed. He could not use his genuine qi at all. He was no different from an ordinary person who had not cultivated. Luckily, Lu Ming's physical strength was extremely strong. He had already reached the 6th grade greater success realm. He could still retain a certain amount of combat strength. Moreover, he was not suppressed in the use of force and intent realm. However, since he could not use his genuine qi, Lu Ming's speed was greatly reduced. He could only travel like an ordinary person. Whoosh! Lu Ming's muscles bulged. He was like an agile monkey running in the desert. Suddenly, Lu Ming stopped in his tracks. He sensed a mysterious fluctuation spreading toward him. A wisp of blue light was floating in the air. This is the intent realm of heaven and earth, the water intent realm of heaven and earth. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. In the 100 Gods slope, there was a kind of fortuitous encounter where one would encounter the intent realm of heaven and earth floating in the air. According to the expert speculations, this realm of heaven and earth should have been left behind by the corpses that had fallen here. Those powerful existences had comprehended the intent domain of heaven and earth to an inconceivable level when they were alive, merging it with their will. Even after death, the intent domain of heaven and earth didn't disperse, floating around the world. If one could come across it and comprehend it, they would have a great harvest. Because these concepts of heaven and earth seemed to have been tamed by someone, the difficulty of comprehending them was much lower. A wisp of it was worth at least several power Upanishad crystals. Unfortunately, it's the concept of water. I can't use it now. Lu Ming sighed and left reluctantly. He continued to move forward and wandered around. In the next 2 days, Lu Ming didn't encounter anything. Not to mention any treasures, he didn't even encounter a wisp of the realm of heaven and earth. On the 3rd day, Lu Ming encountered a strand of concept of earth, which made Lu Ming sigh in regret. However, on the 7th day, Lu Ming's luck came. He encountered a wisp of the concept of fire. Immediately, Lu Ming used his own power to entangle this wisp of concept of heaven and earth and started to comprehend it. As Lu Ming comprehended it, this wisp of concept of heaven and earth slowly dissipated like a power Upanishad crystal. No wonder the spots to enter the 100 Gods slope were so precious. It was because the number of concepts of heaven and earth wandering around the 100 Gods slope would decrease. Perhaps after a few years, the 100 Gods slope wouldn't be so attractive anymore. 1 day later, this wisp of concept of heaven and earth completely dissipated. Lu Ming's comprehension of the concept of fire had deepened greatly. He was getting closer and closer to comprehending a wisp of the concept of fire. Soon after, Lu Ming continued to wander around. On the 11th day after Lu Ming entered the 100 Gods slope, he encountered another wisp of concept of heaven and earth that was useful to him. The concept of thunder. Lu Ming rejoiced and started to comprehend it. His concept of thunder advanced by leaps and bounds. With this wisp of concept of heaven and earth, his concept of thunder reached great perfection. Lu Ming cultivated 3 kinds of concepts. In the 100 Gods slope, this was one of his advantages. It was easy to encounter concepts of heaven and earth that were useful to him. If he only comprehended one kind of concept, it would be much more difficult to encounter the corresponding concept of heaven and earth. He might encounter it only a few times in 3 months. However, after this, Lu Ming's luck seemed to have run out. For 7 consecutive days, he didn't encounter any concept of heaven and earth. "I'm really unlucky. I just wander around all day. I can't even cultivate true qi." Lu Ming sighed. Suddenly, Lu Ming's expression changed. He smelled a faint medicinal fragrance in front of him. "What's going on? There's desert everywhere. There's not a drop of water or even a blade of grass. Why is there a medicinal fragrance?" Lu Ming was very curious. He followed the medicinal fragrance. Not long after, Lu Ming saw some rocks standing in the desert. It was Lu Ming's first time seeing rocks in the 100 Gods slope. The 100 Gods slope was full of desert and sand. "There's water and a spiritual medicine." Lu Ming walked into the pile of rocks. He suddenly realized that there was a small pond in the middle of the pile of rocks. It was less than 1 meter in length and width. There was a clear spring in the middle of the pond. It emitted a shocking amount of spiritual qi and life essence. There was a blade of grass in the middle of the spring. The blade of grass had thin and long leaves. It had 8 leaves, and each of them was like a sword. The leaves were emerald green. There is a blade of grass in the 100 Gods slope. How magical! Plus, I can feel that this blade of grass is emitting an extremely powerful sword intent. Lu Ming seemed to be in deep thought. Perhaps, there was a supreme being's body that fell here. Its original essence turned into this pool of spring water, and its original will turned into this sword-shaped plant. Incredible! These 2 things are incredible. This clear spring contains a powerful life essence. It can cultivate top-tier spiritual medicine. And this blade of grass, if a sword cultivator touches it, he or she will definitely treat it like a treasure. He or she will be able to comprehend the sword Dao from it. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. He was extremely excited. After that, Lu Ming took out a jade box. He carefully placed the clear spring and the blade of grass into the jade box. There was not even a drop of spring water left in the small pond. "Wait, I wonder if cultivating spiritual medicine will work on the 2 branches?" Lu Ming's heart stirred. He suddenly thought of the 2 pieces of withered branches that shot out from the heavenly gates. The 2 branches appeared in his hands. He then placed the 2 branches into the clear spring in the jade box and soaked them in it. "Let's wait for a while and see if it will work." Lu Ming smiled and kept the jade box in the Temple of Paragon. After that, Lu Ming continued to move forward. In the blink of an eye, 1.5 months had passed since Lu Ming entered the 100 Gods slope. In this period of time, Lu Ming had encountered a wisp of wind intent and a wisp of fire intent. Lu Ming's understanding of the wind intent had improved again. As for the fire intent, it had improved and he had comprehended a wisp of the fire intent. Lu Ming's fire intent had finally reached the intent level. Chapter 450. For the rest of the time, Lu Ming searched for the intent realm while comprehending the 3rd level of the 3 ultimate skills of the Dragon God. Although he couldn't use true qi in the 100 Gods slope and couldn't use the 3 ultimate skills of the Dragon God, it didn't hinder him from comprehending it. As long as he could comprehend it, he would be able to successfully cultivate it after leaving the 100 Gods slope. 2 days later. While Lu Ming was running, he suddenly noticed a young man running in front of him. That young man looked to be around 27 or 28 years old. He had a stocky build and looked very strong. Obviously, he also saw Lu Ming. His eyes flashed and he continued running, disappearing in front of him. Looking at his age, he should be the previous batch of Tian Divine Guards. Lu Ming's eyes flickered. This was the first time he met someone else after entering the 100 Gods slope. Those who could enter the 100 Gods slope were definitely not simple. They were either geniuses or had strong backing. Lu Ming pondered for a moment and didn't think too much about it. He continued to search while comprehending the 3 ultimate skills of the Dragon God. On the second day, Lu Ming came to a desert with howling winds. In this desert, the winds were fierce and incessant, stirring up sand and dust. Lu Ming didn't have true qi to protect his body. He could only circulate the power of the wind to block the surrounding winds. Chirp! Chirp! Suddenly, Lu Ming heard a bird chirping in front of him. Bird chirping? Lu Ming was stunned. The 100 Gods slope could be said to be barren and dead silent. How could there be birds? Lu Ming was very curious. He followed the sound and searched. That is, not long later, Lu Ming stopped and looked at the sky in shock. 100 meters high in the sky, there was a round pearl. The round pearl was green in color and crystal clear, as if it was made of the most beautiful green jade. On the surface of the round pearl, there was a small green bird. It was flying around the round pearl and letting out chirping sounds. Lu Ming could tell at a glance that the green bird wasn't a real bird, but an illusion created by the round pearl. Could this be the weapon spirit of a spirit weapon? A spirit weapon giving birth to an artifact spirit. What level was this spirit weapon? Moreover, it has such a rich concept of wind. This is definitely a supreme weapon. I'm rich, I'm rich. Lu Ming was ecstatic. If he could obtain such a spirit weapon, it would have endless uses. Lu Ming approached cautiously. His body emitted the concept of wind, wanting to draw the bead down. Chirp! Chirp! When Lu Ming approached, the little green bird clearly noticed Lu Ming. It let out a crisp chirp and blinked its large eyes curiously, sizing up Lu Ming. Lu Ming revolved the concept of wind and approached the bead. When the little bird came into contact with Lu Ming's concept of wind, its eyes revealed a friendly expression. He seemed to enjoy Lu Ming's aura very much. There's hope. Lu Ming was overjoyed. He exerted even more effort to display the concept of wind. Brat, scram! This bead is mine. At this moment, a cold shout sounded. A tall and burly young man strode over. Lu Ming's gaze turned cold. This young man was the young man he met yesterday. At this moment, the burly young man's eyes were filled with greed as he stared fixedly at the bead. Immediately, a surge of concept of wind also erupted from his body. It was so deep that it was even above Lu Ming's. Brat, disperse your concept of wind. Let me do it. The burly young man berated, his tone full of command. Idiot! Lu Ming said indifferently. He then ignored the other party and concentrated on controlling the concept of wind. At this moment, the little bird was bathing in Lu Ming's concept of wind. It seemed to be enjoying it very much. A pair of small wings flapped and flew towards Lu Ming with the bead. Success! Lu Ming was ecstatic. The little bird flying towards him meant that it approved of him. Damn it! Seeing this, the burly young man shouted angrily, "This bead is mine. You want it? Dream on." Boom! A powerful concept of wind rushed towards the bead. Boom! The burly young man's concept of wind collided with Lu Ming's concept of wind, giving off a violent roar. Lu Ming's concept of wind trembled and dissipated with a bang. The little green bird seemed to be frightened. It screamed and flapped its wings, flying towards the sky with the bead. "Where do you think you're going?" the burly young man roared. He bent his legs and the muscles all over his body exploded. His burly figure soared into the sky and grabbed at the bead. "Damn it!" At this moment, Lu Ming roared. He stepped on the ground and his figure also soared into the sky, rushing towards the bead. Chirp! Chirp! The little bird screamed and flapped its small wings rapidly. Gusts of wind emerged. The little bird and the bead turned into a green light and rushed forward, disappearing in the blink of an eye. Pung! Pung! Lu Ming and the burly young man fell rapidly and landed on the desert, creating two large pits. "Damn it!" Lu Ming roared angrily. His eyes flashed with cold killing intent. The bead that was about to be in his hands was destroyed by the burly young man just like that. Lu Ming's heart was bleeding. That bead was absolutely extraordinary. It was a weapon used by a peerless expert who cultivated the concept of wind. If Lu Ming could obtain it and comprehend the concept of wind on it, his concept of wind would definitely advance by leaps and bounds. It would not be impossible for him to condense concept runes in a short time. But now, it was all gone. His killing intent towards the burly young man could be imagined. "Kid, what are you shouting for? I haven't questioned you yet. Kid, I told you to disperse the concept of wind and let me do it. Why didn't you do as I said? Now that I've lost this supreme treasure, tell me, how are you going to compensate me for my loss?" The burly young man stared at Lu Ming with a gloomy expression. His killing intent flickered. "Compensate you? Ah!" Lu Ming was so angry that he started laughing. He was the one who discovered it and was about to get it, but it was destroyed by the burly young man. Now, the burly young man actually wanted him to compensate. What a joke! "I'll compensate you for your head. Idiot, today, you must die." Lu Ming's eyes were cold as he strode towards the burly young man. "Huh, you want to kill me? What a joke. This is the 100 deities slope. Cultivation is suppressed here, but the physical body is superior. My physical body has already reached the 5th grade greater realm, surpassing some kings. You want to kill me? You're the one who will die." The burly young man laughed wildly. His muscles bulged as he took a step forward. His body rushed towards Lu Ming as he threw out a punch at the same time. Boom! Lu Ming threw out a punch as well, aiming at the burly young man's fist. "You still dare to compete with me? You're courting death." Shatter! The burly young man revealed a hideous smile. He wanted to shatter Lu Ming's fist with one punch and make him lie on the ground and wail in pain. Pung! The two fists slammed into each other. Crack! As the burly young man wished, the sound of bones breaking could be heard. However, the burly young man's face did not have any trace of ferocity or excitement. There was only fear and disbelief. Ah! Chapter 451. The burly young man's face was completely squeezed together. His face was twisted with endless pain. Bang! Lu Ming's fist surged with terrifying power and erupted with a loud bang. The burly young man's fist exploded like tofu dregs. Ah ah ah! The burly young man's body retreated frantically as he let out a hysterical scream. The two punched each other. It was not Lu Ming's fist that exploded, but the burly young man's. "Now, go to hell." Lu Ming's eyes were cold as he strode toward the burly young man. "Ah, what are you doing? What are you doing?" The burly young man screamed like a frightened little girl. He was no longer as arrogant as before. At this moment, there was only fear in his heart. The strength of Lu Ming's physical body was beyond his imagination. It was definitely above grade 6. His physical body had reached grade 6 before he became a martial king. How did he cultivate? What am I doing? Didn't you hear me? I'll send you to hell. Lu Ming's murderous intent was as cold as the snow in winter. It was bone-chilling. No, you can't kill me. I'm the son of the protector of Wind Palace. If you kill me, my father will not let you go. The burly young man roared. Huh, there are only the two of us here. If I kill you, how will your father know? Since you intervened to seize the bead, your fate has been sealed. Go to hell. Bang! Lu Ming took a step forward and threw a punch. The physical body of a grade 6 upper realm expert was extremely terrifying. The punch shook the air like a falling meteorite. With a terrifying force, it blasted toward the burly young man. No, no! The burly young man roared, but it was impossible for him to dodge. He could only wave his other fist to block Lu Ming. Crack! The two fists collided. The burly young man's other fist also exploded like tofu. My hand, my hand. The burly young man screamed miserably. His face was completely distorted and tears and snot flowed down his face. His whole body was trembling, his legs were shaking, and his pants were wet. He was so scared that he peed. Regret, incomparable regret. If he had known this would happen, he would not have snatched the bead. Originally, he thought that with his rank 5 physical body, he would be able to suppress Lu Ming. He had never expected Lu Ming to be so strong. Don't kill me, don't kill me, don't kill me, I know I was wrong, I know I was wrong. The burly young man staggered backward, begging as he retreated. Bang! In the next moment, a terrifying fist energy struck his chest. The violent fist energy directly penetrated his body and shattered his heart. The burly young man's eyeballs popped out of their sockets, and blood gushed out of his mouth. His face was filled with remorse, and in the next moment, he died. Lu Ming swiped his hand and took off the burly young man's storage ring. I'm so unlucky to have met this guy and let a peerless treasure escape. No, I have to keep chasing. Maybe I can catch up. Thinking of this, Lu Ming ran dozens of meters in one step, chasing in the direction where the bead flew. This chase went on for over 1,000 miles. However, he still did not see any trace of the bead. Ah, my precious bead! Lu Ming wanted to shout. However, Lu Ming was not willing to give up. He gritted his teeth and continued to chase. However, this time, Lu Ming stopped in less than 100 miles. Rumble. Buzz, in front of him, there was a deafening roar. Endless lightning flashed as if it was going to destroy heaven and earth. There was a sea of thunder. Endless thunder and lightning flashed everywhere like thunder snakes. It was extremely terrifying. There was a cauldron. The cauldron was simple and unadorned. It was as big as a mountain, suspended between heaven and earth. The endless lightning was emitted by this giant cauldron. In the sky, there were dark clouds. Between the dark clouds, there was a pool. In the pool, there was water constantly flowing down. The strange thing was that the water was blood red. It was like the water of the ocean, spreading toward the giant cauldron. The giant cauldron kept emitting lightning to bombard the blood-red water, but it was useless. The blood-red water kept hitting the giant cauldron. The giant cauldron was rumbling and shaking. The lightning on the cauldron was decreasing and the light became dim. Tribulation, this is tribulation. This giant cauldron is actually undergoing tribulation. Lu Ming was dumbfounded. Although Lu Ming did not know what tribulation the pool in the sky was, it was definitely a heavenly tribulation. There were many kinds of heavenly tribulations. Lu Ming only knew a few common ones. A giant cauldron was actually undergoing tribulation. Lu Ming found it unbelievable. Rumble. The pool in the sky tilted slightly. Endless blood-red water poured down like the water of the ocean. The sky rumbled and rushed toward the giant cauldron. Dang! The giant cauldron shook. The incomparably huge cauldron emitted lightning that was thicker than a bucket, trying to repel the blood-red water. Unfortunately, although the lightning was terrifying, the blood-red water seemed to be able to restrain it. The lightning had no effect on the blood-red water. Rumble. The blood-red water kept hitting the cauldron. The giant cauldron kept shaking, as if it could not take it anymore. This giant cauldron is definitely like the bead from before. It's a supreme treasure. If I can get it, I'll be rich. Unfortunately, this heavenly tribulation is too terrifying. If I go in, I'll probably be washed away by the blood-red water and not even dregs will be left. Lu Ming thought to himself. He could only watch and feel anxious. At this time, the giant cauldron shook even more violently. The lightning it emitted was also decreasing. It seemed like it could not hold on any longer. Right at this moment, a sudden change occurred. The stone egg that had been hanging on Lu Ming's hair suddenly flew out. It emitted a bright light and rushed toward the pool in the sky. In the process of flying, the stone egg became bigger and bigger. In the end, it became bigger than a mountain. A crack appeared on the eggshell, like a huge mouth, and bit toward the pool. Rumble. The pool seemed to be alarmed. It shook slightly. Heaven and earth roared. Endless blood rushed out of the pool and rushed toward the stone egg. However, the stone egg shone and was not afraid at all. It rushed over and appeared above the pool. At the next moment, the stone egg opened its mouth and bit. Crack! Half of the pool was directly bitten. At this moment, the whole world shook violently. It was as if the heavens were angry and were about to destroy the world. However, at the next moment, crack! The stone egg opened its mouth again and directly swallowed the remaining half of the pool. Heaven and earth suddenly calmed down. Whoosh! The stone egg shone and quickly shrank. It flew back to Lu Ming's hair and hung on it as if nothing had happened. Lu Ming was dumbfounded. It took him a long time to react. Nest, what is this thing? It even swallowed the pool of the heavenly tribulation. Isn't this too heaven-defying? Lu Ming stared and muttered to himself. Although he knew that Dandan was extraordinary, this was indeed shocking. Clang! Chapter 452. Swoosh! The cauldron shrunk to the size of a fist and appeared in front of Lu Ming. The cauldron had 3 legs and 2 handles. The body of the cauldron seemed to be made of bronze and there were some strange patterns on it. Lightning crackled on the body of the cauldron. It was a lightning cauldron. The lightning cauldron floated in front of Lu Ming and seemed to be sizing up Lu Ming. Then, it flew a few rounds around Lu Ming. Lu Ming instinctively exuded the aura of lightning. Clang! The lightning cauldron shook slightly and suddenly slammed into Lu Ming's glabella. Lu Ming was shocked and instinctively retreated. However, it was too late. The lightning cauldron slammed into his glabella and in the next instant, it disappeared. Boom! Lu Ming felt the world shake and he blacked out. In the next instant, he realized that he had appeared in a hazy place. There was a boundless fog around him. A cauldron that was taller than a mountain floated in front of him. The lightning essence that was as vast as the ocean spread out. This is my sea of consciousness? Lu Ming's eyes narrowed. He did not expect that the lightning cauldron would rush into his sea of consciousness. Let's get out of here first. Lu Ming focused. In the next instant, his consciousness left his sea of consciousness and returned to his physical body. He looked around and saw that it was a desert. Peace was restored. That lightning cauldron ran into my sea of consciousness. Does that mean that it wants to follow me? Also, that terrifying lightning essence. Let's go and take a look. Lu Ming immediately appeared in the Temple of Paragon and focused. In the next instant, Lu Ming returned to the foggy place. This was his sea of consciousness. The lightning cauldron floated in the air motionlessly. The vast lightning essence continued to spread out. It was extremely rich. The lightning essence is too terrifying. I'm rich. Lu Ming laughed in his heart. Then, he called out to the lightning cauldron a few times, but there was no response from it. Although this lightning cauldron didn't have an artifact spirit, Lu Ming was certain that it definitely had its own spirituality. Now that it wasn't reacting at all, it was likely that it had been injured by the heavenly tribulation and needed to recover. Forget it. I'll comprehend the concept of thunder first. Lu Ming walked under the thunder cauldron and sat down cross-legged, comprehending the vast concept of thunder. The thunder intent from the thunder cauldron was too dense. It was dozens of times denser than the thunder intent in the Tao Enlightenment Palace. It was also clearer and easier to comprehend. It was as if there was a supreme existence teaching Lu Ming the concept of thunder at all times. Lu Ming felt as if he was bathed in a sea of thunder concept. His thunder concept was advancing by leaps and bounds. Awesome, this is awesome. Lu Ming was overjoyed. The carefree feeling of rapid improvement fascinated him, and he became even more focused on comprehending. As time passed, Lu Ming's lightning force increased at a terrifying speed. Thunder force, early stage of great accomplishment, middle stage of great accomplishment, late stage of great accomplishment. In a mere 5 days' time, Lu Ming's lightning momentum rushed to the grand completion stage in one stroke. However, Lu Ming did not have any intention of stopping. The state of thunder in the surroundings was simply too high quality. It was definitely not a first-grade state of thunder. It was many times higher than the first-grade state of thunder that a martial king comprehended. To comprehend in such an environment, for someone who was still in the realm of force, the speed of improvement was terrifying. It was just like a person earning money. When one had no capital, it would be difficult to earn tens of thousands of yuan. But when you have millions or tens of millions, is it still difficult to earn tens of thousands of yuan? It wouldn't be difficult. Lu Ming continued to cultivate, trying to break through to the intent realm. After Xiao Chen's state of thunder reached perfection, his speed of improvement started to slow down. However, that was only compared to before. Compared to others, he was still many times faster. Awesome, this is too awesome. I wonder what level the owner of this lightning cauldron is. I heard that even martial emperors would die if they came here. Could it be that they have surpassed the martial emperor realm? Lu Ming thought to himself. Surpassed the martial emperor? Lu Ming simply did not dare to imagine it. In the divine desolate continent, martial monarchs were the peak experts. They ruled over an area, and their might shook the world. No one could defeat them. Was there really an existence that surpassed martial monarchs in the world? Lu Ming found it hard to imagine. No wonder. I heard that someone once obtained an inheritance at the 100 Gods Slope and became an expert that could move unhindered in the divine desolate continent. It is really possible. Lu Ming thought for a while before continuing to comprehend. Half a month, after only half a month, the power of thunder had undergone a qualitative change. It broke through the shackles in one move, transforming from state to intent realm. Thunder concept. Lu Ming had comprehended the thunder concept in one go. I really did not expect that I would comprehend the state of thunder so quickly. Now, I have comprehended the state of thunder for wind, fire, and thunder. What I need to do now is to merge the state of thunder with the state of wind and fire. Once the three states are merged, the 3 ultimate skills of the dragon god will immediately transform into a superior grade heaven-ranked martial technique. Then, my combat prowess will reach a horrifying level. At that time, how many battles will I be able to fight? 9 battles? Lu Ming's eyes lit up. Legend had it that 9 was the limit. No matter how powerful the geniuses of the divine desolate continent were, they could only reach 9 battles at most. It was impossible to break that limit. It was like a rule. Legend had it that a 9-battle genius had the potential to become a martial monarch. Lu Ming felt great anticipation in his heart. For now, Lu Ming put aside the matter of comprehending the state of thunder. Then, he focused on merging the 3 states. Unfortunately, merging the 3 states was too difficult. The difficulty of merging the states increased tremendously with each additional state. Right now, merging the 3 states was even more difficult than merging the state of wind and fire. Fortunately, Lu Ming already had experience in merging the states. He could avoid many detours. However, he could not merge them in a short time. While Lu Ming was doing his best to merge the 3 states, a horrifying electric light suddenly burst out from a courtyard in the Thunder Palace in the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace. The electric light soared into the sky, and dark clouds immediately covered the sky. Lightning flashed and thunder roared. This time, countless people were alarmed. Heavenly tribulation. That is a heavenly tribulation. Someone is undergoing a tribulation to break through to Martial King. Who is it? It should be Xue Chao. Previously, I heard that he was in closed-door cultivation to break through to Martial King. Incredible. I wonder if he can succeed or not. Rumble. Following that, lightning flashed and thunder roared. A heavenly flame descended, and a tribulation descended. Half an hour later, the dark clouds scattered, and a loud roar shook the sky. Following that, a purple figure soared into the sky from the Thunder Palace. As he hovered in the air, lightning flickered around him, filling him with a disdainful aura. It really is Xue Chao. He broke through to Martial King. The Thunder Palace Master has another Martial King expert under his wing. How envious. He became a Martial King, transcending mortality, and has a lifespan of 1,000 years. I have to work hard. Discussions rang out in the surroundings. Most of them were filled with envy. Whoosh. You're tuning into the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.